Very, very much, Doug Bowen. We came here in time. The miners just back from Hawaii about a week ago, but John just cruised in today. John was out there on a 2 weeks report. Jim Phillips was sent him out there to see if country music was as good out there as it is in El Paso, but John is back tonight, and we're happy to report to people out in K-Hay that those shows you've heard with Coach Young and John, they're really live this week. They were done by a satellite from Hawaii, from Hilo National Airport, but we're happy to be here tonight, and when we say we are moments away from kickoff, ladies and gentlemen, we are just moments away from kickoff. We're at the Sun Bowl, and you may say, well, what type of ball game do you expect tonight? We expect a very, very good ball game, because tonight's game will pit the District 2 5A champion Eastwood Troopers coming into tonight's ball game. They're 5-3 on the year, but they are 5-0 in district play, and oh, how they would love to finish up this season undefeated in district. Meeting them across the field in the Sun Bowl Stadium, a team that was, well, heralded before the season started to have had a very, very good ball club, and what a disappointment along the line for the J.M. Hanks Knights. 3-5 on the year, 2-3 in district, but last week somebody lit a fire under the Hanks team, and the final score against the Parkland Matadors was 46-14, and head coach Jim Pufall feels that they have found the offense that has been lacking all year long. And if you think that that's just a word to go by, listen to this. As you take a look at the Hanks Knights team, you can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 returning starters on the front line, 3 returning starters in the backfield, and one of them won't be starting on the line. That's Chris Nance, who weighs 280 pounds, just a broth of a young man whose mother has been known to go into Safeway and go into Safeway and go into Safeway.
She is the one that wants so badly to win that $1,000 worth of groceries.
Oh, you hear it on K-Hay, that $1,000 worth of groceries. That's why I brought it up.
That is almost 4 meals for that young man.
I'll tell you what, but they are a team that is on the rise. The only problem is it's so late in the year, and Jim Pufall and his team, the Hanks Knights, would love it to just upset Eastwood tonight. Another unusual thing about it also is that last night, Bel Air beat Isleta to garner the runner-up spot in 2-5A, and the young man who quarterbacked the Isleta team was a 6'3", 175-pound sophomore quarterback by the last name of Pufall.
Very familiar sounding name. Big boy for a sophomore.
He sure is. Yes. His daddy, of course, the head coach at the Knights. Toss won by Eastwood. They'll take the choice in the second half to start the game. Hanks receives, South End moving from right to left. And we are in the Sun Bowl with the super brand new electronic clock. I don't know if they've coordinated the colors yet, but they've got the brand new electronic clock, and we're ready to go. Also, Dr. Ron Hufstadter in the booth with us tonight. He'll be on at halftime, and if your name is familiar, he is the man who's in charge of the marching minors at the university, and what improvements they have made with that marching minor band. Jim Lott, speech engineer extraordinaire, the man who found Johnny Carson in a Waywood Center, is with us tonight. The kickoff by the Eastwood Troopers coming down at the 8-yard line. A little razzle-dazzle. Now a little fumble in there, too, on the razzle-dazzle, and it may be an Eastwood recovery. And I'll tell you what, I'm just amazed. The Hanks Knights picked the ball up at the 9 by one of the upbacks, and that gentleman was, I believe it was Donald Parker, and he went and he shoveled it back to Danny Marola. Mr. Marola was, believe it or not, trying to pass back to the first back who picked it up. This all happened on a kickoff. Net result, a recovery by Mark Galvan. Eastwood Troopers 1st and 10 at the 17-yard line. So that's not the most auspicious way for Jim Pufall's team to start out for the Hanks Knights. 1st and 10, Eastwood Troopers, John Brochu at the helm. Now hand off to the first back coming through, and he's going to take a nice loft. That's Steve Foster being ridden out of bounds at about the 20-yard line. Steve Foster's had 140 carries this season, 833 yards. It's almost 6 yards a clip. He's crossed the goal line 4 times. He's a fine running back. How do you get the team prepared to come into tonight's ball game when you're 5-0 in district, Mike, and you know you've already won?
Well, I think about the only thing Eastwood really has going for him is the hope of going undefeated through the district, in addition to the fact this is a neighborhood get-together here with Eastwood and Hanks right next door almost to each other.
All right, Brochu back to pass, rolling out to his left's got a receiver downfield, and he's complete at about the 12-yard line. He's driven out of bounds there, and the pass complete to Brad Watson, the left end, 170-pound junior. You probably hit the nail on the head. The hopes of a undefeated season will be what will take the Eastwood Troopers into tonight's game and perhaps give them the momentum. Of course, Hanks loving nothing better than to upset them. A very, very sparse crowd, to say the least, tonight in the Sun Bowl, but we've asked them to huddle together for warmth purposes. It's a lot of fun for us. Do we enjoy it? We really do. All right, 3rd and 6. The ball resting at the 13-yard line for the Troopers. Play just underway. And the handoff to the first back coming through. A little room on the left side, and that'll be Chris Riddick, the ball carrier. Make that Steve Foster carry the ball, and he's inside the 10. Down to about the 9-yard line. Chris Nance, a broth of a young fellow whose mother's hoping to win the Safeway contest.
She needs to win Safeway, I think. 280-pound senior.
Oh.
He made quite a hit right there. It was a good hit.
I'll tell you, I met this young man last year, and he is an awful nice young gentleman. Super guy and a fine ball player.
Big, too.
Big and a lot of speed. Tell you about him after this play. 4th and 3 at the 10. Brochu back in the pocket, rolling out a little to his right. Got a receiver at the goal line, and I'll tell you why it didn't complete. Tim Pernew had it in his hands, and he dropped it. It'll go as an incomplete pass. Chalk up that column that the Strells and Mike Henry talks about. Those that could have gone the other way that are charged against the quarterback, because there's nothing else that you can do to put it in the ball player's hands. Tim Pernew, by the way, when we talk about his size and tell you what a fine ball player, make that Nance, Chris Nance, talk about this young man and what a super young fellow he is and the size that he has. He packs 280 pounds on a senior frame. He's just 5'9", but when he hits you, you know you've come through the Santa Fe freight yards, baby.
Well, they, as to put it into a cliche form, they dodged a bullet right there and came up with no points as they run their first offensive play here.
Fred Lawyer, the running back, straight up the middle for the Hanks Knights. Trying to open up a hole. Bobby Lujan and Pat Need, the center and right side guard of the Hanks Knights, and he's going to be up to about the 14-yard line. And let's call it 2nd and 6, 2nd and 7, actually, from that point. Got the brand new stadium clock in the Sun Bowl. The clock is running, 10:39, first quarter. We've got no score. Clock is moving. Hanks Knights, 2nd and 7. The handoff straight up the middle. A little yardage being picked up, and it's very, very tough yardage by Fred Lawyer. Fred's a 170-pound senior, stands also 5'9". That's Chris Carter, by the way, on that last run, the tailback. Not much of a crowd here at the Sun Bowl tonight, but then they're all saving their money. They're coming out tomorrow night for BYU. I'll tell you, young, trying to think of the quarterback for the BYU. Steve Young. I was right. Think about the young miners. Steve Young was out before the game tonight, taking a look at the field out here, and it was absolutely, you know, like all the press, just like a magnet grabbing to him. 3rd and 3 for the Knights. They're going to be close to that first down territory as they're up close to the 20-yard line. The ball carrier, once again, Chris Carter, the 155-pound senior, stands 5'9". The big game tomorrow night against the BYU Cougars, and don't you dare sell your miners short.
BYU who?
BYU who is right. I'll tell you what, don't sell those miners short. They have played good games all year round, and John Teicher, you'll hear it all with John Teicher, Rick Parr, and the Mighty 690 tomorrow night. And I'll tell you what makes it enjoyable. If you're coming to the game, bring your transistor radio, because with John and Rick, they give you a lot of insights on the game, a lot of things you'll pick up, and you'll enjoy it a whole lot better. 4th and 1. The Knights are going to punt this one away. That's Tony. Ooh, flag coming down. It may be a delay of game penalty, and let's see what the call will be. This is Tom Rogers, our referee. Delay of game penalty coming up against the Knights. The officials tonight, the referee Tom Rogers, the umpire Armando Heredia, the head linesman, my good friend A.C. Sanders, whose lovely mother Crystal is one of my teachers at Roberts School, and the line judge Bernie Del Herio, and the back judge Danny Montes, one of the experienced crews in this city. It'll bring up a 4th and 5, and the ball is at the 15-yard line. David Rivera will be punting for the Knights. Not much wind to speak of. He gets sort of a line drive kick, so driving back to the 39-yard line. Picked up at the 39 by Brad Watson, cutting for the near sidelines, across the 45 up to about the 48-yard line, where he's going to be brought down at the 48-yard line. In on the stop for the Hanks Knights was Danny Morola. So it'll be 1st and 10 for the Eastwood Troopers. 41 yards on that punt. And a 5-yard return as the mysterious stat man comes through again.
Yes, that's the kind of kick you usually get a good run back on.
Yeah, well, we can tell him who it is, and I'll tell him tonight it's Nate Archibald.
All right, good.
All right, 1st and 10, ball at the 49. No score, 9:01 remaining in first quarter. Eastwood Troopers over the ball. They're 5-0 in league play, and they'd like to keep that mark unblemished. Handoff straight up the middle to Mark Galvan in at the fullback spot. Not much to be picked up by Galvan on that carry. Galvan is a 170-pound junior, and I'm sure that Jim Poofall and his staff are going to try and get in some of those reserve backs tonight as the ball is down to the 48-yard line. Pickup, let's call it pickup 3, and it'll be 2nd and 7. 2nd and 7. Eastwood Troopers. John Brochu. He'll be back next year, the 170-pound junior. The handoff once again to Mark Galvan. He tries the left side of the line. Tim Conover, Peter Zavala opening up a gaping hole on the left side. Timbo Duncan, the left side linebacker, 186-pound senior, had to get in there and try and close it up. Not before they picked up good yardage down to the 41. It'll be a 3rd and less than a yard. Nice play by Mark Galvan.
Good hole opened up on the east side. Good hole opened up on the east side of the Eastwood Troopers line as they picked up good yardage right there. And their defense or offense has been moving the ball pretty well. Scored 28 against Bel Air a week ago.
Galvan, 3rd carry in a row, and I'll tell you what, he just met up with the big fella right there. Whoa! Mark Baca put a hit on him, and he could feel it all the way up here. Nice stop by Mr. Baca, the 165-pound senior who packs a lot of efficiency on a 5'8" frame. Front 5 for the Hanks Knights on defense, 181, and their team as a whole defensively 182. You see it on the replay, and it looked real good. Mark Baca putting a stop. Well, neither team has had much of a offensive thrust. Maybe nobody wants to show too much. Hanks doesn't have to put anything, don't have to save anything because they won't be back till next year. Punt being gotten away by Lance Wagoner. Flag is down. The ball comes down at about the 1-yard line, and whoa, belted into the end zone, but they're going to give him credit up to about the 1-yard line. 42 yards on that punt and no return. Punt is down. It could be a legal procedure coming up against the Eastwood Troopers, and let's see what they're going to do. I thought that was Lance Wagoner. Tony Prenslow was going to get a chance to do some punting tonight. It might have been Tony in on that punt, too.
Paul, I believe the call may be not enough men on the line of scrimmage. It appeared they lined up with 6 instead of 7, so that
that's illegal procedure.
May be the call that's going to come up against them, and it's a tough break against the Eastwood Troopers because what
had them pinned up.
They certainly did, and they've had them pinned back throughout most of the evening. In fact, so far, at least halfway through the first quarter or so.
Well, they're going to have to punt it again. Eastwood, they'll take the 5-yard penalty, and it'll bring up a 4th and 8, and Hanks Knights trying to see if they can get a little better field position than being down on the 1-yard line. The black and silver, the Hanks Knights. This school opened up 1978. Jim Poofall has been the head coach all those 5 years. 2,300 students. Jim's fine assistants, Pat O'Neill, John Daniel. Pat O'Neill, the former tight end, the redhead. Former tight end here at the University of Texas El Paso, was a fine basketball player too. Art Peralta is the principal, the trainer Dave Cohn. Prenslow in doing the punting, gets a nice high punt, going to come down about the 10-yard line. No fair catch call for, and maybe it should have been because down he goes. And down he goes in a hurry, Donald Parker. 38 yards on that. 5-yard return. Once again, we've got the stats right there.
You got it. I tell you, and once again, Hank starts off deep in their own territory. Very difficult to get any offense rolling, but we'll see if they can get anything here as they start out again inside their own 15-yard line.
Lots of games going on around the season, around the city tonight. Andrus at Coronado, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is a big game too, because the winner of that game will be the runner-up in District 1-5A and will come back to play against Eastwood right here in the Sun Bowl next Thursday night. We'll be telling you about that all evening long. There's a pitch out to the left side. Tremendous yardage being picked up by a young man by the name of David Ibarra. I don't know if that was Gene Claiborne. It was that Chris Carter? Okay. Chris Carter was the running back on that. He's got yardage up to the 26-yard line. 1st and 10 for the Knights at the 26-yard line. Tonight's game in a mighty 690 KHAY in El Paso with a simulcast on Group W, Cable 4. Watching it Saturday morning, again on Monday night. Combating hoof and mouth disease, Howie. Got the pro set. Unbalanced to the right. Roll out by David Rivera. He tucks it in. Flag comes down. He's just going to cross the line of scrimmage up to about the 33-yard line. Flag is down. It could be a legal procedure. Could even be a holding penalty along that line of scrimmage, Mike.
Well, where the flag was thrown in would be a guess strictly, but it looked like it may be a holding call, and that's really too bad because it looked like he was not going to get any yardage. Ended up picking up about 4, which you really like, but the call is going to go against Hanks, and I didn't pick up the preliminary
motion penalty, legal motion penalty against the Hanks Knights. You know, here's the way we stack up for the bi-district encounters next week, and of course you'll hear it all in the mighty 690 KH in El Paso. We will simulcast each one of those games with Group W Cable 4. Thursday night here in the Sun Bowl next week at 7:30, the 2-5A winner Eastwood versus the 1-5A runner-up, to be determined tonight. The winner of the Coronado-Andros game will be playing here in the Sun Bowl against Eastwood next Thursday night. Next Friday night, a week from tonight, 1-5A winner Irvin versus 2-5A runner-up Bel Air. I'll tell you what, we're going to have 2 beautiful ball games, and who else but the mighty 690 will be bringing them to you next Thursday and Friday night. 6:44 to go in the opening quarter. We've got no score. It's a 1st and 15 for the Hanks Knights. Rivera rolling out to his left, and he's going to be taking another bite at the loss column. Just driven out of bounds by a very, very hard charging Tony Prenslow, the left side cornerback, 165-pound junior, seen action both ways tonight. Had a nice charge across the line of scrimmage and just got into that backfield and chased Rivera out of bounds at the 17-yard line. So tack up about a 4-yard loss, make it 2nd and 19 for the Hanks Knights. There's a team that just exploded last week, 46-14. You know, they opened up, believe it or not, with a win over Burgess, 20-16, and that's the same Burgess team that tied Coronado 2 weeks ago, 21-21. So well, you know that Hanks has got some explosiveness.
They've got some ability. They had some mid-season injuries that slowed them up, but we'll see what they can do tonight.
Chris Carter, the handoff, tries the left side, just crosses that 20-yard line, and wow, you're going to pay for that run. I'll tell you what, nice hit put on Chris. That hit delivered by Brad Johnson. He's a big fellow, isn't he, Mike?
210-pound senior, and that was a nice hit right there as they're faced with 3rd and a long way to go.
3rd and let's call it 14. 3rd and 14, the ball at the 22-yard line. Not only is the Sun Bowl refurbished, revamped, the brand new carpet, the increased seating, but a beautiful new scoreboard. Not fully sold on some of the lettering on there. They've got to change the lettering on that scoreboard so you can see it a little better. The white lettering on the scoreboard does not show up with the orange background. Little shovel pitch out pass to Carter, and he's up to about the 30-yard line, across the 31-yard line. But that'll bring up a 4th down and long situation for the Hanks Knights.
Well, at least they got away from their own goal line a little bit. The previous possession, they had started off deep and unable to move the ball, had to punt from pretty deep in their own territory, but got a good punt away, and we'll see if they can get off another one here and maybe get Eastwood back in their end of the field a little bit. Almost the whole first quarter's been played in Hanks territory so far. David
Rivera will be back to punting for the Knights. The punt will come at about his own 20-yard line. See if he can get it. It's not much of a rush, and he gets one of these line drives kicks. It's going to bounce at about the 38 and inside the 20, and they're going to let it roll inside the 10-yard line. He's going to get credit for quite a punt. Tony Prenslow had a chance to grab it, and he didn't want to chance it. It'll be 64 yards on that punt. We had a low line drive punt that came down at about the 42-yard line, kept right on going, and Prenslow didn't want a chance grabbing it and having a little mishandling going on and perhaps fumble it and give Hanks a chance at getting it inside Eastwood territory. He let it go, and it comes to rest at the 6-yard line. It'll be 1st and 10 at the 6. I'm not so crazy. It's going to take time to get used to that new scoreboard. I've been working with that minor scoreboard for almost 15 years, and I'm looking for the down markers, and you've got to find them on that scoreboard. It's very, very unusual. Going in motion is Mark Galvan, the handoff straight up the middle for the Eastwood Troopers, trying to wedge out some running room in there. Steve Foster, the halfback, 170-pound junior. He's across the 10-yard line up to about the 12. Nice pickup on that, pickup of close to 70. 2nd and 3. 2nd and 3 at the 12-yard line. I expect we may see that quite a bit throughout the evening as he was getting up. David Futrell was getting up, who has cleared the way for him. David's quite a right tackle for the Eastwood Troopers. Blue chipper. Tell you about him through the evening. Quite a ball player is right. Foster once again the carrier. David Futrell is a senior, weighs 240 pounds. He made Campbell's Football Magazine as a All-State Friday Night Hero choice before the season even began. There's nothing to have diminished that along the way. A lot of the teams coming in feel he's their number 1 or 2 pick. I was going to say draft choice. He's their number 1 or 2 high school pick. He's a good one. 3rd and 1, the ball just short of the 14-yard line. The way they've been running it, they'll probably give this ball to the second back coming through, Galvan. That's who's got it across the 15. He's going to be close to that first down. See where they mark it. It is signaled a first down. Eastwood Troopers, the blue and gold. School opened up in 1961. They've got a little over 2,000 students, 2,050. The head coach, Todd Ware, his 5th year as the head coach, and his assistants, some real good ones. Art Howard, Steve Jolly, Wade Ardoin, Sam Hughes. The trainer, Jerry Homburg, been there for many years. And the principal, one of the best in the business, Bob Curtin. The band director, John Ferroni, a legend in his own time. Pitch back to Foster, trying the right side. He's up across the 15, the 20, the 25, and then the ball comes loose as he hits the ground. But as you well know, I think that'll be ruled down right there. Should be down at about the 27-yard line. The ruling nowadays, the turf really should not make the ball get loose. You should be, in order to get a fumble, it should be the man as he comes down and the ball is hit, or he drops it before he hits the ground. But once he hits the ground, and then when he hits the ground, if the turf knocks it away, it's usually not a fumble. That's how they usually guide it. 1st and 10, Mike, at the 27-yard line.
Well, the Hanks Knights were hoping to maybe call for a fumble on that one, but it was pretty obvious that I don't even think the initial impact on the ground, it was like a second bounce before the ball came loose, and Eastwood's running the ball very well right now. We'll see if they can continue.
Well, they'd like to go on a long drive. Coming back the other way, slot back around, Tony Prenslow. Mr. Prenslow met up with the big fellow, didn't he?
Chris Nance. What a hit. What a hit. You stop in a hurry when you run into him. Change directions in a hurry.
I'll tell you what, it's like hitting an abutment. You didn't get any, didn't pick up anything on that one, I guarantee you right there. That ball's still at about the 27-yard line. We'll be 2nd and 10 at that juncture. Come on out tomorrow night. The Miners, BYU. You're going to see a wide-open ball game, to say the least. But you're going to see a team in the Miners that will never give up. Tony Prenslow split out wide to the right. Foster, Galvan in the backfield. Foster, the ball carries across the 30 up to about the 31-yard line. Nice hit put on Foster at that juncture. And bringing him down, David Ibarra. David Ibarra in on a stop. Where's number 41?
You know, there was a good linebacker playing for the Hanks Knights a year ago named Blake Custer, I believe. He wore that number 41, and very reminiscent of some hits we saw him put over the last couple of years. Good ball player.
Blake played for 3 years out there as a sophomore, junior, and senior when they first got out there, and he was quite a hitter, no doubt about it. 3rd and 6, ball at the 31. Rivera back to pass, got plenty of protection. Receiver out in the flat and just flat out overthrows the receiver out there. And that's Steve Francis coming out of the backfield, curling downfield at about the 45, close to the midfield stripe, and just overthrew him. A little high. They look a little unsure of themselves. I think their ground game is going real well, the Troopers, but their passing game has left a little to be desired this evening.
They have been unable to get anything sustained underway. They've had a couple of pretty nice first downs they picked up on the ground. Like you said, the passing game just has not been sharp, and I'm sure it probably is difficult for them after beating Bel Air a week ago to win the conference or district crown to come back tonight.
Tony Prenslow gets a nice boot away and be a fair catch call for, signal taken in at the 30 by Danny Marola. Danny Marola signals for that fair catch. You'll hear it all on the Mighty 690 K-Hay. And we want to welcome back Mary Chavez. Mary, no, she wasn't in Hollywood, and she did not get married. She was a little under the weather, but she's back, isn't she?
Yes, she is back, and you're right. She did not get married.
She didn't get married?
No.
Oh, there's still hope for you bachelors out there.
That's right.
Fast car, a lot of money.
Lots and lots
all
of
married.
money. Yes, yes.
Ball at the
that is, if you have lots of money.
That's right. Not Mary. Mary doesn't have a lot of money. But if you have a lot of money in a fast car and you want to meet a lovely young lady, Mary Chavez. 1st and 10 at their own 31-yard line. David Rivera, the handoff, the first back coming through. And I believe that was Ruben Dominguez. Let me see as they come up off the ground. Yeah, it was Ruben Dominguez, who's now spelling Fred Lawyer at that fullback spot. Ruben stands 5'8", weighs 185 pounds. He is a senior running back.
Solidly put together young man, and it appears as if on both sides of the ledger they're pretty content to try to establish something on the ground, particularly Hanks, who has yet to put the ball up except when they tried to on the opening kickoff.
Well, ball's at the 33 at 2nd and 8. They've got nothing to lose. I think they ought to open it up a little. Make a little fun out of it. Rivera rolling out to his right, and He's across the 35 up to about the 37-yard line, brought down at that point by Shane Rinker, the 185-pound senior defensive end for the Troopers. Nothing to lose for Jim Pufall and the Knights, and they've got everything to gain. They can upset the team that is going to represent the District 2-5A in the Sun Bowl next week against the 1-5A runner-up, whether it be Coronado or Andress. And they've got everything to gain by opening it up tonight. I'm a little surprised they haven't.
They put an awful lot of points on the board a week ago against Parkland, 46 points, and I don't think they did it quite like this, but we'll see what they can do here.
Hand off to Ruben Dominguez, just a little misdirection play. Took that step to his right and cut back to the left between his guard, Pat Neeb, and Bobby Lujan. He's going to be close to that first down marker, and he should have the first down. Be a 1st and 10 for the Hanks Knights. And the ball will be at their own 41-yard line. I remember when they, of course, Hanks High School, the real name is J.M. Hanks, the former superintendent of the Sletta school system for so many years. I'm going to tell you a few stories about that man through the course of the evening. But I remember when they built that school, and everybody ventured to say it'll probably be known as the Hanks Hankies, but never came about.
I certainly am.
I'd have loved it. I'd have loved it because, you know, you got to have something, you know, a little something unusual. That's right up my alley. A little flare pass out to the side to Danny. Was that Danny Marola, I believe? No? It's not going to be Danny Marola. They got another back in there. That'll be Mike Molinar. Mike Molinar on the reception of that pass. You know, wouldn't that have been dynamite? All across the United States, they could have said the J.M. Hanks Hankies. I would have just thought that would have been just super. You hadn't thought about that, huh?
No, I probably would not have.
All right, the end of the first quarter at the Sun Bowl. We've got no score, Eastwood and Hanks.
At the State National and our affiliated banks, we believe the more you put into your home, the more you'll get out of it. That's why a home improvement loan from the State National Bank makes sense. Your personal banker is an expert in home improvement lending. It's one way the State National puts more money back into our community than any other bank in town. If you have a home improvement idea, see your personal banker at any State National bank and put our momentum to work around your house. The State National, an equal opportunity lender.
Other first quarter scores, it's Andress 0, Coronado 7, Burgess 0, Austin 14, it's Irvin 6, Jefferson 7, and Socorro and Parkland are both tied. Big scores 0-0. Back up to the Sun Bowl with Paul and Mike.
Thank you very, very much, Mary. You'll hear it all in the My 690 KH. What do you got for stats in the first quarter?
First quarter stats, Hanks has 42 yards rushing, Eastwood has 32. Hanks has 2 yards passing, Eastwood has 8. Total yardage, Hanks 44, Eastwood 40. First downs 2 apiece. Penetrations, Eastwood has 1 and Hanks has none. Penalties, 1 for 5 for Eastwood, 2 for 10 for Hanks. Turnovers, none on either side.
All right, not much offense by either team. 2nd and 8 at the 44-yard line. Going in motion, Gene Claiborne, the flanker back. And a little misdirection play coming back the other way. Chris Carter not going to get much yardage at all on that play. Perhaps across the 45 up to maybe the 46-yard line.
6 rushes for 34 yards so far in the ball game for Carter, so he's having a pretty nice evening in spite of the fact that Hanks has not really rolled up a whole lot of yardage on the ground, although they have more yardage than Eastwood does.
3rd and 6 at the 46-yard line. Senior quarterback David Rivera, quite tall. He's tall, 5'11". He's rolling out to his right. Now he's going to have to tuck it in. He's going to come up short of that first down. Nice hit put on him by David Futrell and Brad Johnson. I do like the size of David Futrell.
The boy gets around, doesn't he? I'll tell you, he moves very well for a 240-pounder, no doubt about it.
Brad Johnson's not a bad hitter either. I saw him chase that play down. He's a 210-pound senior. He was number 73.
The little tackle.
Right. Good size. I'll tell you, you need those tackles on defense. Well, once again, that strategic 4th down and punting situation for the Hanks Knights. 4th and 4 at the 46-yard line. David Rivera will come back and do some. Oh, gets a nice punt away. Going to come down at about the 15-yard line. Signal 4 and taken in. The fair catch by Tony Prenzlau. 37 yards on that punt by Prenzlau. No run back. 1st and 10 for the Eastwood Troopers. We're in the second quarter. We've got no score. Boy, that was a little surprise that Austin leading Burgess 14-0.
Austin obviously has some capability. Burgess played Coronado obviously so very well a week ago, but Burgess, well, I don't know, maybe who knows? Who can figure this out? I don't know.
Well, and of course in 2-5A, Eastwood at the top, followed by Bel Air, Riverside, Isleta, Hanks, Socorro, and Parkland bringing up the rear. Socorro had their first district win ever just 2 weeks ago. Handoff straight up the middle to Steve Foster. The handoff from John Brochu, the quarterback, crossed the 15-yard line. And he picks up about 2 yards up to, let's call it the 17. Let's call it the 18. I'll put it down statistically so that you'll know when you go to college football games, professional games, high school games, how come it looks like the ball is closer to 1 yard marker, and yet the announcer says it's at the next. Once it crosses a yard marker, it goes to the next yard marker for statistical purposes. So we'll call it 2nd and 8 at the 18-yard line. Brochu sets under the quarterback, barks out the signals, rolls out to his left, little pitch out. And I'll tell you what, that pitch out got there late. Steve Foster got the pitch out late, but Fred Loya got there early, didn't he?
Fred Loya was going to make sure that that play was not going anywhere. Well defensed by the Hanks Knights, and so far their defense has played pretty well. They've given up a couple of decent running plays out the middle. That time they didn't give up anything.
Well, Brochu would be in there right now. See what he can do. By the way, Gary Rinka was the quarterback on that last play. We should point that out. And Brochu just came back in. Brochu got a little rest. And now all of a sudden Todd Ware says maybe with 3rd and 10 at our own 15, we better get Brochu in there. Perhaps we'll get a little rollout to the right. Going in motion is Steve Foster. And it looks like it might be, well, it's a straight back pass. We had the pass play right. Now he's going to be chased out of the pocket. Lets one down. Oh, as he got an arm, just airs it out all the way downfield. That ball came down at the 42-yard line, and it was intended for Steve Francis. It overthrew Francis, but Brochu let that ball go from inside his 10. It came down on the opponent's 42-yard line. That's a pretty nice pass, almost 50-some-odd yards in the air. That
was awfully nice. Brochu 1 for 4 for 8 yards so far tonight, so the passing game has not begun to click, and I think Eastwood probably is a little bit flat tonight. I don't think they're real fired up for this game. They have the district in their hip pocket. They don't want to show off too much, and they just are not as high-powered as I think they are capable of being.
Tony Prenslow is going to get this punt away from his own 5-yard line. Double coverage back for the Hanks Knights. Ball is going to come down at about the 40 and get an Eastwood roll, and it's down there by Kirk Carr, 175-pound junior of the Eastwood Troopers. 27 yards on that punt. Of course, no run back. We've got 9:08 remaining in the first half. We've got no score. We've got not much of an offensive show.
Well, so far it hasn't been much of an offensive show. Hanks Knights go on the attack right here, and this is the best opportunity they've had of the evening as they start off on the 42-yard line of the Eastwood Troopers. So I'd like to see them unload a little something right here and get rolling.
It'll be 1st and 10, pardon me, for the Hanks Knights. Ball at the Trooper 42-yard line. It's probably the best field position the Hanks Knights have had all night long. And the flag, ooh, what a hit was put on. Carter's got that ball, but I'm going to tell you what, Carter got the ball, and Carter got Sergio Marmolejo and Joe Gaskins in on him at the same time. He's going to pick up a yard or two. Give him credit down to the 41-yard line. Talk about offensive shows. You asked Dr. Ron Hofstadter, put him on a spot tonight and tell him to rate some of these high school bands. I know Coronado's got a Super 1 with Lambrick.
He just cringed.
Eastwood's got one with Ferroni. So go ahead, put him on a spot. Find out how much of a scholarship he gives those band guys.
Okay.
Find out what they do in the off-season to carry the tubas. All right, handoff straight up the middle, and a man is still breaking loose. I'll tell you what, it was Ruben Dominguez, and they thought that they had him bottled up at about the 30-yard line, and this young man, as you see on the replay, just kept right on going. Breaks loose. He's inside the 25-yard line, down to about the 23, and he just bounced off tackler after tackler. Look at that. Well, everybody relaxed because they thought he had him stopped. But the whistle didn't blow. That's why you play the whistle, whether it's high school, pee-wee ball, college ball, or pro ball. Don't play the whistle.
Don't quit until the whistle blows.
Don't anticipate. 1st and 10 at the 23-yard line. The Knights on the move. Deepest penetration of the night. Carter the handoff, trying the right size down close to that 20-yard line. Yeah, that's a good question. I want to find out from Dr. Hofstadter, how do the tuba players stay in shape? I mean, hey, listen, you got to, I don't know, what does a tuba weigh? I don't even know. What's a tuba weigh, Doc? Put them on a weightlifting program. Make sure those high school bands people have vitamins. They must have some fantastic programs in college and high school for bands. I'm amazed. Looking at the Eastwood Trooper band before the game, I'm just amazed by the formations, they're just fantastic. They really are. Still like the pageantry of high school and college sports. 2nd and 7. Ball at the 20. Rivera rolling out to his left. He's got a cordon of blockers his way, and he just cannot turn the corner. Chased out of bounds at the 18. With him was Chris Carter and Ruben Dominguez, but he just could not turn that corner. The reason why, Joe Gaskins and Henry Waters in on him to make the stop. It'll be down at the 18-yard line. Bring up a 3rd and a short 5 for the Hanks Knights.
Well, I'm sure the Hanks Knights would like to get some points on the board. They have a 3rd and 5 right here, and an excellent opportunity as they began this drive on the 42-yard line, now inside the 20. So at least they have penetration. I'm sure they'd like to get some points on the board. At this point of the season, penetration is neither here nor there, really.
Rivera back to pass, rolling out to his right. He could tuck it and run, and that's what he's going to do. He heard us. He's inside the 10-yard line. Dives to about the 8. This is the mighty 690 KHEY in El Paso, Texas. Paul Strelz, Mike Henrich, Jim Lott's feature cast of thousands, bringing you the final regular season high school football game of the season. But we'll be back, baby, next week with the simulcast with 2 by-district games. First down, goal to go at the 8. We saw he had a lot of room, and he did tuck it in and ran very well.
It was a nice effort by David Rivera. In fact, a nice extra effort because he was hit at about the 10-yard line, which would have come up short of the first down. It would have been 4th and about 1 to go, but he made a little dive, a little extra effort. That shows it pays to keep those feet going. That's what they always teach you. That shows that it pays.
All right. Hand off to Dominguez, the left side of the line. He drives inside that 5. They're going to be close. Down inside the 5. They're going to put it down. Right on the 5 to say Ruben's knee went down. So he's 2nd down. Goal to go at the 5.
First legitimate threat of the evening for the Hanks Knights, and they really have not been close prior to this, and I'm sure they'd really love to put 7 points on the board. Boy, they put a bunch of them on the board a week ago against Parkland. 46-14, they beat the Matadors, and I'm sure they'd like to get 7 right here.
Well, they had a shootout with Andrews. Andrews beat it 38-29. What a ball game that was. Dominguez trying the left side of the line. Woodruff and Culpepper opening up a nice hole. He's going to be down inside the 3. Should be down to about the 2-yard line. Be 3rd down, goal to go at the 2. I'll tell you what could take it in. Rivera rolling out to his right would do the number again.
Hanks has been very content to keep the ball on the ground. They've only thrown the ball 1 time, completed that for but 2 yards, but they have run the ball pretty well so far. Carter has 8 rushes for 39 yards so far in the ball game.
Oh, 3rd and goal to go at the 2. Little misdirection play. In for the touchdown, Mr. Rivera. Tell you what, he faked a nice handoff to Chris Carter, throws the linebackers, and right between Woodruff and Culpepper on the left side, he's got the 6 points as the Hanks Knights get on the scoreboard first in this ball game.
You call Rivera's number, and he certainly kept it and went around the left side, though, but he went into the end zone, and again, it was a good effort because a couple of guys had shots at him and just could not bring him down. We have a timeout on the field, by the way.
They had called that timeout. We're going to keep it right here because they'll be going for the extra point, and then, of course, we'll be able to take the timeout right after. But that was a pretty neat little drive engineered by Mr. Rivera, and finally getting the 6 points. The final 2 yards traversed by Rivera himself through the left side for the 6 points. I'm wondering if the Hanks Knights will be trying to go for 2 on this one.
Well, their persistence certainly paid off on the ground game because they ran every one of the plays on that drive. It was done entirely on the ground. 8 plays for 42 yards in 3.5 minutes of the clock taken away, and they lead right now 6-0. And I would not be at all surprised as well. I see the kicker is out there, and that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to kick, but
well, you know who's the kicker, don't you?
Apparently they are going to.
Well, usually Rivera kicks a lot, and we're going to see they may make a change. They haven't had the greatest success in their kicking game this season, and Rivera at times has been the kicker, and once in a while, you know, you can get that straight hike back to the kicker instead of to the man who's the holder.
Don't believe that's Rivera out there.
No, it's not out there right now.
Pat Neeb is who that looks like.
Well, we'll see what they're going to do. He's going to get the kick up. It's up high enough, and it's good. Our score, 5:38 remaining in the first half. Hanks, 7. Eastwood, 0.
At the State National and our affiliated banks, we believe the more you put into your home, the more you'll get out of it. That's why a home improvement loan from the State National Bank makes sense. Your personal banker is an expert in home improvement lending. It's one way the State National puts more money back into our community than any other bank in town. If you have a home improvement idea, see your personal banker at any State National bank and put our momentum to work around your house. The State National, an equal opportunity lender.
We have other exciting first quarter scores. Andrews 0, Coronado 10, Burgess 0, Austin 14, Bowie 13, El Paso 7, Irvin 6, La Jeff 7, Socorro 13, Parkland 6, Riverside 0, Gadsden 7, Fabin 7, Canutillo 0, Mike Henricks and Strauss.
Thank you very, very much, Mary. Wow, that's a surprise. Jefferson leading Irvin 7-6 at this time. Irvin bidding for an undefeated season, and the Silver Fox is saying, you're going to make it, baby, but it's going to be awful tough coming through us.
We were impressed with Jefferson early on in the season.
Caught them against the Andrus Eagles when they beat the Eagles over there at the sauna bath in the Northeast.
And looked very, very good doing it, too.
All right, our score is 7-0. It was 8 plays, 42 yards, 3 minutes and 30 seconds on the clock. David Rivera calling his own number, went in for the touchdown. Pat Neeb had the point after touchdown. That's where our score is, 7-0 here in the first half. A surprise that there hasn't been much offense, but the Knights got a nice drive, and they kept it going and scored. The kickoff comes down at the 13, across the 20, the 25, and up to about the 29-yard line. Troy Patterson, who runs those kickoffs back, 190-pound senior for the Eastwood Troopers. Boy, that's a surprise. The Jefferson score leading Irvin 7-6. And how about that Coronado 10-0 right now over Anderson? You know, with Anderson, we saw them play 3 times this year. Hadn't caught them in about 2 or 3 years. Saw them 3 times because you always wanted to go to the Northeast with the unknown statistician. And therefore, you know,
Jim Lotsbeach.
Right. So we had to catch him. 1st and 10, ball at the 30-yard line for the Eastwood Troopers. And let's see if Brochu's going to get some sort of an offensive attack going for the Troopers. All across the right side, Steve Foster. Tell you, this guy can run. Every time he runs, it's good for almost 6 yards. He's carried the ball 140 times, 833 yards, and 4 TDs. And he's up to the 37-yard line, 2nd and 3.
9 rushes for 32 yards so far for Steve Foster, and I suspect probably his best buddy on the team is David Futrell. He sure does like to run up between he and David Brady on the right side of the line.
And, you know, Brady, by the way, is 180-pound junior. He's going to be coming back next year for the encore. Same man, same carry. Mr. Foster trying the left side of the line. He's going to be up close to that first down territory. Steve Faludi, 180-pound junior, who's recently seen a lot of action for the Hanks Knights on defense, makes the stop, but not before it's 1st and 10 at the 41-yard line.
Eastwood's still a little bit lethargic on offense, although they had a couple of nice running plays right there, but they are averaging 23, better than 23 points on offense in the district, and I suspect they'll get on track before it's all said and done here tonight.
Brochu, the handoff once again to Steve Foster. You know, Brochu's got a good arm. We'd sure like to see him use it once in a while. Foster, the running back, getting a lot of running plays this evening. Ball up to the 43-yard line, 2nd and 8 at that point. Last night, right here in the Sun Bowl, was not the largest of crowd of the year, but a very, very vocal crowd. Bel Air Highlanders over the Isleta Indians, 12-6. 2 teams that we've seen many times play this year.
Came out and duked it out. Bel Air won it.
I'll tell you what, the Chris Nance, all 280 pounds, got there at the same time as John Brochu tried to give it to the flanker back around Tony Prenslow. Nance got there just as Prenslow got there. That's unbelievable.
Tony says, let's not do that one anymore.
280-pound senior on a 5'9" frame.
He reminds me of a minor of a couple of years back who was redshirted this year and hurt, named Wayne Matson. Reminds me very much of him.
Reminds me of Jaime Shavando that used to play for the Miners that weighed about 300 and some odd pounds. Ball at the 40-yard line, loss of about 3 yards. 3rd and 11 at the 40. Brochu rolling out to his rise, little pass. Incomplete at about the midfield stripe. Bring up a 4th down. I'll tell you what. If the Eastwood Troopers are going to try and hide something from next week's by-district game, they're doing a good job.
Their offense has not been extremely potent tonight. They've kept it on the ground. In fact, they've only completed 1 of 5 passes for 8 yards, and their offense has not been real prolific so far tonight,
to say the least. I'll tell you what, though, knowing Todd Ware, and I've known him an awful long time, I bet you he gets in there at halftime and says, look, guys, I didn't tell you to go out and set the house afire, but I didn't tell you to lose it either.
That's right.
All right. Here comes the punt from Prenslow. Oh, does he get a nice boot into this one? Comes down inside the 20, backs him all the way up to the 15. up to the 20 and going to be brought down at about the 20-yard line. Gene Claiborne, who's the flanker back on offense for the Hanks Knights. Ooh, Prenslow got a nice punt away. 44 yards. I'll tell you, the Miners have had a 7-yard run back. Miners, Scott Waddell is a super field goal kicker, but they've had a tough time with Hector Salazar. Salazar is inconsistent. A good punter, boy, when he gets the foot into it, look out. But if he's got a bad night, Shanksville time. You know, it looks like my slice is coming off the wood. 1st and 10, ball at the 23-yard line for the Knights. They just scored on a nice drive. They'd like to get another one in before halftime. A handoff straight up the middle. Chris Carter, the tailback. He's going to run between Billy Culpepper and Bobby Lujan. On that line, it's Woodruff, Culpepper, Lujan, Neeb, and Carney. The ends, Danny Marola, the tight end, Shannon Scove. In the backfield, the flanker back, Gene Claiborne, the tailback, Chris Carter, the fullback, Fred Lawyer, David Rivera, the senior quarterback. They start 10 seniors and 1 junior. And catch this, on offense tonight, starting 8 returning starters. And that's why they thought they'd have a super season. The keeper, Rivera, the left side of the line, across the 25, the 30, up to about the 33. He's going to be close to that first down spot. They have got more returning starters than any team we've done this year. They start 8 returning starters. Scove, Woodruff, Lujan, Neeb, Carney, Rivera, the quarterback, Lawyer, the fullback, and Claiborne, the flanker back. Will that lead to any wonder why they thought they were going to have a super season?
It seems that they would have, and as we mentioned earlier on in the broadcast, and Coach Pufall mentioned in the pregame show that they were hurt by injuries, but tackle to tackle in that interior line, Culpepper is the only one that's on the starting unit that does not have any experience, so it seems that they would have had a good season, but boy, injuries can do that. That can really create
it
problems.
Decimates you.
Certainly does.
They're measuring for official timeout just for the measurement to see if they had the first down. They're going to be close to it. They may have it by inches. They do have it. It'll be a 1st and 10 ball at the 33-yard line. Boy, if you want to look at injuries and what it does to a ball club, take a look at the UTEP Miners. You know, people said, well, where's that great season you promised us? Well, I'll be flat out true. I haven't been embarrassed listening to the minor games or watching the minor games. I think they have been in just about every ball game they have played. Last week's heartbreaker in Honolulu, I'll tell you what, John Teicher had more people listening to him at 3 o'clock in the morning than most of the husbands had their wives yelling at him. It was unbelievable. That ball game, you couldn't go to sleep till about 6:30 in the morning on a Sunday morning. You were out there waiting for the dog in the paper. It was unbelievable. The Miners had a super shot at it, all but 1.5 minutes. Could have had the chance for the winner. Rivera, the keeper, across the 40, the 45, the 50, and inside the 45. This young man can scamper. And I'll tell you why it didn't go for the touchdown route, because it was finally the hit was put on him. Deep in the secondary, playing a little secondary right now, is Chris Riddick. That was a beautiful run all the way down to about the 41-yard line. You couldn't go to sleep last Saturday night, by the way. There was no doubt about it. Miners opened up. Got a couple of turnovers. Vernon Cook was going good. Sammy Garza, till he got his shoulder separated, was going so super. And you say to yourself, why the Miners? Well, because they play very hard. I like John Teicher's comments after the post-game show with Coach Young during the week. Hitting. One of the best hitting games of the season.
You betcha.
Ball at the 41, 1st and 10. The handoff straight up the middle, and they're not going to get very, very far. And that looked like Gene Claiborne on that carry. Gene didn't pick up too much yardage on that. No, he didn't.
Gene made an excellent block on David Rivera's run just a second ago. The reason that play didn't go anywhere, David Futrell, big defensive tackle, made a good hit.
They're going to take a timeout. We'll take the timeout. 1:34 to go in the first half. Our score, Hanks 7, Eastwood 0.
We're not fancy, not expensive. We don't put on airs. We just put out the best home-style cooking in El Paso. We're the Iron Skillet, a Texas restaurant tradition that started right here in El Paso. The Iron Skillet promises just one thing: good food 24 hours a day, every day in a congenial atmosphere. We're open at I-10 and Horizon night and day with everything from country breakfast to real chicken fried steak and cream gravy to all-you-can-eat specials and great sandwiches. The Iron Skillet, a Texas tradition at I-10 and Horizon under the Petro sign.
All right, back at the Sun Bowl, 1:34 to go in the first half. It's the Strells, Mike, and Jim Lotsbeach. You know, you talk about Jim Lotsbeach. This is a guy that used to sell Breyer's ice cream on the streets of Anchorage, Alaska. Realizing that there was no future in that, he immediately got into radio engineering. Isn't that amazing?
That's hard to believe.
Saw the handwriting on
in the snow.
Ice.
That's right.
And got out of selling Breyer's ice cream in Anchorage, Alaska, and became a a radio engineer, does that show a man with fortitude?
Well, where did Johnny Carson fit in all that?
Well, I'll tell you about that right after the split. 2nd and 10, ball at the 41-yard line for the Knights. They're trying to mount a drive, 1:34 to go in the first half. They've got the lead, 7-0. Rivera rolling out to his left. He's looking for a receiver, and all the time there's someone looking for him, and that someone is Brad Johnson, who thrown for a big loss. I'll tell you what happened with Jim Lott's speech. We've had a lot of people call and say, well, how come you say he's the guy that discovered Johnny Carson? A lot of people don't know this, that Johnny Carson, trying to get away from the Army, joined a roving band of gypsies. And in Anchorage, Alaska, in 1957, he met up with Jim Lotspeech. And this guy, Lotspeech, trying to sell him ice cream on a corner in Anchorage, couldn't do it, and convinced Carson to go into a new thing called television. It's a fantastic story. I'll tell you the book that I read it. Rivera rolling back to pass, tremendous pressure being put on him. He's just got to give it away. And it's going to be an incomplete pass. Shane Rinker just charging. That's right. Jim Lotspeech. It's called Lots of Luck with Lotspeech is the name of the book. And it's an amusing story and a very, very good story. And there's not very many radio engineers that have books like that. We've got 48 seconds remaining in the first half. A lot of people think I'm putting them on. I'm not. You go to your neighborhood dealer. You go out to the Walden Books and ask for Lots of Luck with Lotspeech, and you'll read about some of these fine stories. All right. 4th and 18 at the 49. Rivera gets a nice punt. It's going to roll inside the 10. Ooh, and they're going to down it inside the 5-yard line. Oh, that is a nice job being done by that Hanks Knights. I tell you, getting down to Pat Neve, the 200-pound senior, all the way down the field to down that ball inside the 5-yard line. I'll tell you what, Eastwood Troopers going to go in at halftime and say, what happened? Who did what? Oh, you know, now's not the time, and the Troopers have a fine offensive team. The ball's going to be put down on the 1-yard line. And one thing that the one thing that Todd Ware and his coaching staff don't want to do is they do not want any letdown at all.
I'm sure they don't, with next week coming up, and of course it's no play if you don't win next week. 48-yard punt, by the way.
No play if you don't win for who? No,
for anybody next week.
Oh, yeah, that's true. 1st and 10 at the 1-yard line. The keeper by Brochu straight up the middle. Clock is starting to run now. Let's see. They should have to run one more play, and that'll take them into halftime. And they've got to make sure they get the good handoff because they didn't wedge it out very far. It's up short of the 2-yard line, so it'll be 2nd and 9 at that juncture. Clock is rolling. They've got to run one more play. Gary Rinker, the other junior quarterback, in at the helm, and he doesn't look like he wants to take him out of the huddle, but I think he has to. I think he's already asked Tom Rogers, the referee, and I think he nodded yes. No, they're going to let it go down. It was 35 seconds when the play started, and that'll be the half. All right. Score here at halftime. Hanks Knights 7, Eastwood Troopers 0. Be right back with our halftime show.
At the State National and our affiliated banks, we believe the more you put into your home, the more you'll get out of it. That's why a home improvement loan from the State National Bank makes sense. Your personal banker is an expert in home improvement lending. It's one way the State National puts more money back into our community than any other bank in town. If you have a home improvement idea, see your personal banker at any State National bank and put our momentum to work around your house. The State National, an equal opportunity lender.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, presenting the 1983-84 Hanks High School Sweepstakes Marching Band. Under the direction of Orlando Calderon, assisted by Ed Vera and Jeff Robleski. Drum majors Jill Verbright and Kevin Bernard. Rifle captains Calais Roberts, Don Rogers and Jackie Cowler. Flag captains Alice Briones, Missy Blyberg, and Tony Young. And now, the pride of the East Side. time, ladies and gentlemen, the J.M. Hanks High School Band would like to present their band Sweetheart. Voting was done by band members. The 1983-84 Hanks Band Sweetheart is Jill Burbright. President of the Hanks Band Booster Club will make the presentation. Congratulations to band sweetheart Jill Burbright. Another halftime score to report, ladies and gentlemen. Coronado 24, Andress nothing at the half. In the second quarter, an upset in the making. Jefferson 7, Irvin 6. Doesn't figure.
It looks like they may be on their way to the playoffs. They're leading Andrews 24-0. The halftime stats pretty much bear out what the scoreboard has already told us. Rushing yardage, Hanks 121 yards, Eastwood 46. Passing yardage, Hanks had 2 yards. Eastwood had 8 yards. Total yardage 123 for Hanks, 54 for Eastwood. And Eastwood only had 14 yards offense in the second quarter. First downs, 3 first downs for Eastwood, and Hanks had 7 penetrations, 1 and 1. Penalty, 2 for 10 yards for Hanks, and Eastwood had 1 for 5. Turnovers, none on either side of the ledger. Punting average 48.7 on 4 for Hanks, and 37 for Eastwood. Plays 29 and 27. Hanks leading that. And Paul's got a pretty lead.
You know, you're talking about statistics, and Beverly Kerr, the official mascot of the Eastwood Troopers here tonight, and sister of Mary Kay Cosmetic Company. I'll tell you what, she stopped into the press box. We've had just a bevy of wonderful people coming in tonight. And Miss Kerr, I believe, goes to UTEP, don't you? You study at the university? Going again next summer. Well, it's a pleasure to have her here at halftime. She is the legal niece of John Teicher, and we're happy to have her up here tonight. You'll stay tuned tomorrow night for John Teicher, Rick Parr, and a cast of thousands doing the minor game on the mighty 690 KHAY in El Paso, Texas. You come to the ball game tomorrow night, I want you to bring your transistor radios, and when John says hello, I want everyone to stand up and say hello to him. He did a super job. I'll tell you what, John, the only radio announcer that went to Hawaii 3 weeks ahead of time, and that was really not John that you saw or heard when the Miners were here at the stadium. That was done on microwave from Hilo, Hawaii. John was there for so long, Jim Phillips was trying to find out where those bills were coming from. All right, we're set to go at the second half here at the Sun Bowl. Our score, 7-0. The Hanks Knights leading the Eastwood Troopers. We're all set with the kickoff, and we'll be putting the Troopers on offense as the Hanks Knights will be getting this kickoff. And it goes down deep inside the 15, down to about the 10. He's up to the 20, the 25, the 30, the 35, the 40, the midfield stripe. He's got one runner to fake out, and he's brought down Patterson. Troy Patterson, brought down by David Rivera, who kicked that ball off at about his own 40-yard line. He had a 43-yard kickoff return by Mr. Patterson, and a very, very good one straight up the middle. Very, very fine kickoff return by Mr. Patterson down to about the 41-yard line. 1st and 10 for the Eastwood Troopers.
Suspect maybe Todd Ware said, boys, wake up, wake up. You slept through the first half. Let's play.
He didn't want to show too much, but he wanted to show just a little. The handoff goes to Steve Foster, the right side, inside the 40, down close to about that 35-yard line. You'll hear it all in the mighty 690 KHAY in El Paso. Mary Chavez will give it to you all night long, the scores on the scoreboard. And, of course, we'll be back next week on a simulcast right here at the Sun Bowl Thursday night, and again on Friday night. Tell you about that on a post-game show tonight. He's 2nd down and 5. The ball at the 35-yard line. Junior quarterback John Brochu's got him up at the line of scrimmage. The handoff to Carter once again. He breaks inside the 35, close to that 30-yard line. So evidently, Todd Ware and the coaching staff of the Eastwood Troopers said, hey, we don't want to go all out tonight, not meaning that we don't want to win. We want to win. We don't want to show too much. We know there's scouting here from all over the district tonight. The bi-district teams in the playoff will be here. But I didn't want to put them asleep. We wanted to win the ball game, so let's get out there and score some touchdowns. 1st and 10 at the 30-yard line. The best drive of the night. The handoff to Mark Galvan, the left side of the line. That's a big hole being opened up by Tim Conover. Peter Zavala down close to the 25-yard line. A pickup of 5. 2nd and 5. Ball at the 25-yard line. Mike, a little change.
They're moving the ball very well right now, and they are doing it on the ground, but they are opening up gaping holes, picking them up about 5 yards at the cliff right now, and it looks like Eastwood has come alive in the second half.
All right, 2nd and 5 at the 25. Brochu, he's got Foster, Riddick, and Prenslow in the backfield with him. Foster the handoff. He's just going to get back to that line of scrimmage down there at the bottom of the pile-up. The big fella coming off, Timbo Duncan and Mark Alvidrez. Had a chance to see Pete Alvidrez, the head basketball coach of the Hanks Knights. Just reminds me that they're back in practice. Of course, the Miners, the orange and white game coming up. We'll talk about that maybe a little later on, or perhaps in a post-game show. Miners open up against Yugoslavia November the 17th. Boy, what a season they've got coming up. 3rd and 5 at the 25. Carter rolling out to his right, doesn't have much room, turns the corner and down close to that 20-yard line. He's got to get to the 20 for the 1st down. It all depends where Tom Rogers and his staff of Heredia, Sanders, Del Herio, and Montes marks it. They give him the 1st down First and 10 at the 20-yard line. Nice interview, by the way, with Dr. Ron Hufstetter. Super guy. I've known him for a few years, and he's a great one.
Great guy, sure is. And the UTEP band is so very good. Good to have them. And they had a chance to go to Denver and perform before the Orange Crush folks up there earlier in the year.
They also performed at the Air Force Academy game the day before. First and 10, ball at the 20. The handoff to Mark Galvan, the left side, trying to turn that corner and just cannot get the corner turn. Tell you why, young guy out there by the name of Jimmy Grijalva. Make that Edward Sims putting the stop on a 147-pound senior, 5'10", lean machine.
Just
Sims.
an excellent tackle out there because it looked like plenty of running room, and he just shut it down. Couldn't pick up anything. No yards.
All right, second and 10 at the 20. Tomorrow night, the Sun Bowl, BYU, point a minute versus the Miners. You want to see a ball game and support those Miners, you get out here. Anyway, whether you're here or you're at home, it'll be John Teicher, Rick Parr, Mike Side on the Mineys 690. You tune in, baby. Bring the transistor. Pass in the end zone, going nowhere. Out of the end zone, through the end zone. Pass intended for Tony Prenzlau, incomplete. It'll bring up a third and 10 at the 20-yard line. I don't believe that, what is that, second or third passing attempt of the night?
That's their sixth. They've completed.
Well, they haven't hooked up with too many then.
Completed one for 8 yards.
Okay. I'll tell you what, I'd like to see Brochu on the rollout. He's had a lot of success. Brochu has completed 42 out of 107, 722 yards, 10 touchdowns in the air route this year. So we know that he can complete the passes. Just he's got to get his timing down a little. Handoff goes to Riddick, and he's not going to be anywhere near that first down territory. It's going to bring up a fourth down, long yardage. Patterson has been known to come in on some fourth down plays for field goal situations. I don't see him coming in at this time. So perhaps as Troy Reffert comes in at the slot, perhaps they will be going for the first down, be 4th and 7. Ball at the 17. They will disdain the field goal attempt and try and go for the first down.
Well, it's a little bit surprising. They've only completed 1 of 6 passes so far for 8 yards. They're going to have to come up with a tough play here on a 4th and 7.
Look for Rivera rolling out to his right. Looked like some motion in the backfield. Pass out on a flat, and the flag comes down. Troy Reffert right over the middle on a count pass reception. There should be some motion in the backfield, illegal motion. Let's see if that's it.
I think we had a fumble on the play.
Yeah. Officials timeout. There was a fumble at the end of the play, but that penalty would have gone against Eastwood also. Let's see if it'll be. And it would have come up short of the first down, actually, so it would have been turned over to Hanks. And it is a penalty against the Eastwood Troopers, and it'll take over where the ball was down at about the 10-yard line. You'll hear it all. Legal procedure penalty was the call against the Eastwood Troopers. Got plenty of action tonight. Anderson, Coronado. Last score we heard was 24-0 Coronado leading.
That was a halftime score.
14-7 Austin over Burgess. Bowie leading El Paso High, and Jefferson was ahead of Irvin. Mary Chavez probably will be able to come up with the update for us on that one. They're going to help this young fellow come off the field now, Troy Reffert, who was on the receiving end of that last pass. Jerry Homburg, the trainer of the Eastwood Troopers, helping him off, and he's leaving the ball game under his own power, and that's always a very, very good sign.
I think he probably had the wind knocked out of him. He was reaching out for the pass and pretty well exposed, and boy, he took quite a shot in the middle of the old rib cage there. That just doesn't feel good.
Be a 1st and 10 for the Hanks Knights. Ball at their own 9-yard line. 8:19 remaining third quarter. They've got the lead, 7-0. Little mix-up on that exchange. Rivera has to keep it. He tucks it in. He's across the 15 up to about the 17-yard line. Rivera tried to hand the ball off to Dominguez, but Dominguez went by in such a hurry, he took everything but the ball. Rivera was standing there with it, and he crossed the 15. Actually picked up good yardage, but it's not one they want to really leave in a playbook.
Well, if you have to have a mix-up in the backfield, I guess that's the kind you like to have. He picked up, as you mentioned, about 8 yards. Outside the 18-yard line, he certainly did, and it brings up a 2nd and 2, which you kind of like.
2nd and 2 at about the 19. Pickup of about 9 yards on the play. He's actually got a short yard to pick up. So he picked up very, very good yards on a busted play. A handoff to the big fella, Chris Carter, the tailback. He's across the 20-yard line. He should have that first down. It'll be a 1st and 10 for the Hanks Knights at about the 22-yard line, let's call it. There are season tickets remaining for minor basketball. John Teicher says as soon as he gets through with, John's got to do the Yugoslavian minor basketball game and then come right back to do the Weber State game. So John says, he may be saying, there goes Fred Reynolds deep down for the pass. Oh, no, he's just dribbling down all by himself. But the Teich can handle it. The guy can do it.
I want to hear him say the Yugoslavian names is what I'm saying.
John?
Hey, he's back there. He said it's a piece of cake, nothing to it.
I tell you what, he can handle those names. He'll do a good job. Hand off to Carter, the left side, across the 25, up to about the 26-yard line. Tell you what, we had the... trying to think of the national team that came in a couple of years ago, and I had the Czechoslovakian or Polish national team, and I had to do those names. They were just unbelievable. They're nowhere near what I would have pronounced. I hope those guys, I'd like to see some of those guys do some of our good Mexican-American names here in the Southwest. They'll be up against the same type of trouble. Ball is at the 26-yard line. It'll be a 2nd and 6 at that juncture for the Hanks Knights. Hand off to Carter, and he bobbles that ball. He's still bobbling the ball, and it comes down. It's loose, and it could be an Eastwood Trooper recovery. Let's see what they're going to rule. Carter kept getting hit, and the ball kept popping up, and it is going to be an Eastwood Trooper recovery. See if we can find out who's on the bottom of that stack for the Eastwood Troopers. That ball just kept bobbing up and down, and right down there at the bottom, numero 5, Tony Prenslow.
You got it, and I'll tell you, he mishandled that ball right there for about 5 yards. He was just doing his little juggling act, finally lost it when he almost got to the ground, and nice pickup by Prenslow, and 1st and 10 for the Eastwood Troopers. Big turnover right there.
Well, give the chance for the Troopers to get back in the ball game in a hurry with 6:33 to go in the 3rd quarter. They're at the 26-yard line, 1st and 10. Brochu back to pass, got them all alone down the end zone, just going to overthrow him. And that is Prenslow once again, the man who just had the fumble recovery. That's a nice airing out the ball. You know what happens in basketball games when guys can't pronounce the name? Number 5 with the bucket, dribbling down the court. And I tell you, when you're doing the Yugoslavian national team, it's understandable. You got to take your chances. That's right. It's going to happen to me, right?
It's going to be hard to believe all the Smiths and Joneses that play for the Yugoslavian national team.
It's amazing. 2nd and 10, ball at the 26-yard line. Get those season tickets now. The Miners have got a bomb burner of a team coming up.
Yes, sir.
And the handoff goes to Foster, trying the right sideline. Short yards pickup. If you read this evening's paper in the Herald Post, you'll find out that the Miners have got a verbal commitment from a young man who stands about 6'9", one of the most sought-after junior college ball players in the nation.
New Mexico Junior
Richardson.
College.
Richmond, Mike Richmond, quite a ball player, 6'9", from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania originally, and a lot of teams were after him, including the Aggies up the road. The Lobos were after him, Wichita State. Throw in anybody you want. Hey, Notre Dame, anybody. Miners look like they're going to sign him. That'll be a plus. 3rd and 7 at the 23. Foster the handoff inside the 20 down to about the 18. Looked like a loose ball was in there, and it was. And it's picked up by the Hanks Knights. Loose ball. Hanks Knight's going to get it, and I'll tell you who came up with it. David Gonzalez, the senior, 123-pounder. He plays defensive secondary for the Knights, and he got that loose ball. Foster fumbled it. Gonzalez picked it up. 1st and 10. If you don't want it, I'll take it. It's too hot for me. 1st and 10, the ball at their own 19-yard line.
Chris Nance patted him on the back and almost knocked him out of the end zone. I'm telling you, Chris Nance is one big fellow at 5'9" and 280.
Tell you what, he was a haunted house all by himself. Little pitch out, it's loose on the field, and it's going to be, it may be an Eastwood Trooper recovery. That's exactly what it is. I'll tell you, they are playing loose and goose. The pitch out from Rivera to Carter just never even got there. That thing was floating around at about the 10-yard line, where it was picked up by the Eastwood Troopers. I may be wrong. It looked like big number 76 for the Troopers. Sergio Marmolejo. Was it Chris Rinker?
I believe it was.
All right, Shane Rinker. All right.
I believe.
Shane Rinker had it. Well, I'll tell you, that ball was just... We've had 3 turnovers in a row.
Came in very fast order. Imagine if it were raining tonight like it were this afternoon.
That's right. 1st and 10, ball at the 11 for the Eastwood Troopers. I'll tell you what, they've got to cash in on one of these turnovers.
We've had 4 turnovers in 3 minutes.
And they haven't cashed in on any of them, either of the teams. Well, we're going to be inside the 10-yard line, down to about the 8-yard line. The ball carrier was Steve Foster. Picked up some yardage down to the 8-yard line. Be 2nd and 7 at the 8-yard line. We've got 5:14 to be down inside the 5-minute mark at the end of this play. 7-0. Hanks is leading Eastwood. Eastwood on a drive. He got the full house in the backfield. And the handoff to Chris Riddick. Close down to that 6-yard line. I tell you, this is where the Hanks Knights, along with Joe Herrera, Mark Alvidrez, Steve Faludi, and Pat Neeb on that front four, putting up a nice defensive battle. Ball is short of the 5-yard line. It'll be 3rd and 4 at the 5-yard line.
Eastwood has scored points all throughout the district race, especially averaging 17 on the season, 23.6 in district, but they've not put any up there tonight with 4.5 minutes left in the 3rd quarter. Maybe now.
All right, Brochu barking out the signals. Second man slot in the tandem in the tailback. Steve Faustin. He's going to be thrown for a loss by Timbo Duncan. Not only has Eastwood been putting up points, but take a look at this figure over here, Mike. Wow. They've been giving up in district less than 5 points a ball game. They shut out Socorro, shut out Parkland, gave up 8 to Waysleta, 6 to Riverside, and 8 to Bel Air. 22 points in 5 games. Comes out to 4.4. With
the defense the way it is, it's easy to see why they're undefeated. 4.4, but even that would be enough to be leading this ball game right now.
4th and 5 at the 6-yard line. They'd like to get back on a scoreboard and show them who the district champs are. Back to pass. Brochu's got him in the end zone. Just going to flat overthrow Brad Watson. I tell you, Watson ran a nice little route, but that was a fine defensive play by Jimmy Grijalva and David Gonzalez for the Hanks Knights, because they would not let Watson break loose in the clear. And they just had to overthrow him, and it'll turn it over to the Hanks Knights. Hanks Knights playing it awful tough. They want to have that glory of saying, look, we're not in the playoffs, but we knocked off the district champion.
We beat our neighbor and the district champs, the Eastwood Troopers, and that's 2 big 4th down defensive surges by the Hanks Knights and a good coverage by the secondary on that play.
1st and 10, the ball at their own 6-yard line. Try and get some running room as Ruben Dominguez tries the left side. He's up over the 5. Let's see where they're going to place it down at about the 7-yard line. A pickup of about a yard on the play. Let's give him a yard. 2nd and 9. Ball at the 7-yard line.
Awfully tough on the Hanks offense deep in their own territory with a 1-touchdown lead. You don't want to get too fancy with it, because a turnover and all of a sudden they're deep in your territory, but they need to pick up a 1st down or 2, at least give them a little room to punt.
David Rivera, the 160-pound senior returning starter at the quarterback spot, and the handoff goes to Chris Carter. Wow. Sergio Mamalejo, 215-pound middle linebacker, was in the backfield just as the ball got there. Did he have a jump on that? And they're going to throw him back to the 5-yard line. Wow. Mamalejo was just got a hold of Chris Carter as soon as he got the handoff.
Hello. Boy, I tell you, he really did not have an opportunity to get ahead of steam underway at all. A good defensive play by Marmolejo, as he well pointed out. He was in the backfield. No way you're going to get underway like that.
They're going to call a timeout. 2:33 remaining in the 3rd quarter. We'll take this timeout. Our score at the Sun Bowl: Hanks Knights 7, Eastwood Troopers 0.
At the State National and our affiliated banks, we believe the more you put into your home, the more you'll get out of it. That's why a home improvement loan from the State National Bank makes sense. Your personal banker is an expert in home improvement lending. It's one way the State National puts more money back into our community than any other bank in town. If you have a home improvement idea, see your personal banker at any State National bank and put our momentum to work around your house. The State National, an equal opportunity lender.
Boy, talking about momentum, the State National, we take a look to the south end of the Sun Bowl. There it is, the bulwark of the banking industry, the State National Bank. And how my children love to go by the State National. Well, in the summer, the 4th of July, with that big, one of the largest American flags in the United States on the building.
I bet they like it at Christmas, too.
Holiday time, got the outline of the tree, which is symbolic for anybody's religion. It's just a beautiful thing put up, and of course then the star by our favorite people over at the electric company. So it's super what this city does. I think it's the best city in the world anyway. We love it. You know, you talk about the minor basketball team coming up, one of the biggest games in town.
Yes, sir.
One of the biggest games in town is who is going to start for the Miners.
Yes.
All right.
No joke.
3rd and 11 at their own 5. Eastwood trying to stop them right here. It'll be a quick kick by Rivera. He gets it away. It's across the 40, the 45, the midfield stripe, down inside the 40, down inside the 35. Oh, it was a low trajectory kick, a quick kick by Mr. Rivera, and it caught him sleeping. 64 yards. I'll tell you, you want to get out of the shadows of your own goal line. Do it in a hurry. This Knights team is playing some head-up football.
That's the second 64-yard kick of the evening. But I'll tell you, that was a fine, fine play right there because they were deep in their own territory, and it caught, I think, everybody in the stadium off guard, but it certainly got them out of the hole all the way down to the 31-yard line of Eastwood.
Ball be at the 31-yard line. Be a 1st and 10 for the Troopers at that juncture as John Teicher, engineer unextraordinaire, coming in to spell a lot speech at this time. Rinker in at the quarterback slot. Little handoff to Foston. This is a fired-up Hanks Knights team. Just got in there and made that stop. Gary Rinker, who is the backup quarterback, 175-pound junior Mike, is in there running the team right now, and they're going to suffer a loss back to the 27-yard line, where it'll be second and scoreboard says 14, second and 13 at the 14-yard line.
Foster has 20 carries on the evening for 59 yards so far, so he's quite a bit under his almost 6 yards a carry average right there. That's right at 3.
Rinker, the handoff to Foston. Wow, is he hit? Is he ever hit? Guess
That's
who was
the
in
tank. Chris the Tank Nance, 5'9",
M48,
280 pounds. I think he just puts his head down and hits hard. I think he used to be 6'4", and he just made so many of those head-on hits.
He's just a battering ram.
Yes, boy. I tell you, he changes your direction in a hurry. He really does.
I hope a guy like that gets a chance to play a little college football because he is one tough dude. Boy, they just had him on. We saw him on camera. He's a big guy, say the least. Mark Galvan going in motion. Rinker rolling out to his left. He's got a pretty strong arm. Floats one out there, and it could have been almost picked off. Tony Prenslow knocked it up in the air. He couldn't get his hands on it. And back there with him was David Gonzalez with a chance to pick it off. Mike, you were going to say, how many times has the Knights stopped them tonight?
Eastwood has had 3 excellent opportunities. Hanks has stopped them inside the 10-yard line on 3 different occasions.
Inside the 10?
Inside the 10 3 times, and if you take those and take a field goal each time, well, they
would have had the lead.
But it would have been 9-7 if they did. Tony
Prenslow will be back in punting formation for the Eastwood Troopers. Get it away at about his own 20. It's a pretty good punt. Brought down about the 38, up to the 40, and down he goes by Danny Marola of the Knights. This is the mighty 690 K-Hay in El Paso. K-H-E-Y, the high school game of the week. Strells, along Mike Hennis, Jim Lott's speech. 35 yards on that punt, 2-yard return, 1st and 10 at their own 40 for the Hanks Knights. Tomorrow night in the Sun Bowl, John Teicher, Rick Parr, and a cast of thousands. BYU and the Miners, come on out. Whether you're at home or at the ball game, tune in to the mighty 690 with John Teicher and Rick Parr. You're going to love it. Boy, what a game they did last week in Hawaii, you know? It was super. I loved it. One of the most exciting games I had a chance to listen to in years. John does quite a job. Rivera, a little mix-up in the backfield. He tried to hand it off to Chris Carter. Carter said, I don't want that. Rivera, after that play, may not want to keep it again next time. Brad Johnson, along with David Futrell, in on that stop. No gain. 2nd and 10. Ball at the 40. Tomorrow night, the Miners. And then next week, 2 by-district playoff games.
We'll have them both.
And then minor basketball. You know that if, as we go down the road, we'll be remiss to tell them, we have always been with the Shamrock Network.
Yes, sir.
We will be with the Shamrock Network again this year. Your only station in El Paso to bring you those regional ball games. Rivera, the keeper, up to about the 44, 45-yard line. Well, they're content, evidently, not to do much opening up themselves, the Hanks Knights. It's going to bring up a third and about 6 at the 44-yard line, Mike. So they're not, they're content with a 7-point lead.
They have really kept the ball on the ground. In fact, we've just run out the clock in the 3rd quarter.
It's the quarter. We'll take this time out. The end of the 3rd quarter, our score, 1 quarter to go at the Sun Bowl. Hanks Knights 7, Eastwood Troopers 0.
We're not fancy, not expensive. We don't put on airs. We just put out the best home-style cooking in El Paso. We're the Iron Skillet, a Texas restaurant tradition that started right here in El Paso. The Iron Skillet promises just one thing: good food 24 hours a day, every day, in a congenial atmosphere. We're open at I-10 and Horizon night and day with everything from country breakfast to real chicken fried steak and cream gravy to all-you-can-eat specials and great sandwiches. The Iron Skillet, a Texas tradition at I-10 and Horizon under the Petro sign.
Well, we've got one more exciting quarter of play in our final regular season high school game from the Sun Bowl on the K-Hay High School Game of the Week. K-Hay, the home of the shopping spree, $1,000 shopping spree. What's the name of the fellow who won the $10,000 down
Paul
payment?
Blott.
Was he a
police officer?
Police officer, okay,
Yep.
in the El Paso Independent,
El Paso Independent School District, that's right.
Yeah. And what is he, has he said what he's going to get or what he's going to do?
I do not know.
He can make a heck of a deal with $10,000.
Oh, wouldn't you like to bargain with a $10,000 down payment? Yes, indeed.
I'll tell you what, you know, a lot of the ladies out there don't know. John Teicher, of course, does the minor games, the Diablo games. He's not married, and this guy has got a super-looking car.
Oh, has he?
He doesn't have much money. He's got the car.
Oh, yeah, all his money goes into his car.
That's right. Ball's at the 44-yard line, 3rd and 6 as we start the final quarter of play with the Hanks Knights in possession and with the lead. Back to pass, Rivera, tremendous rush. He's across the 45. The midfield stripe. He's got the first down. He's knocked out at about the 40-yard line. I'll tell you what, this guy is a gutty little runner, Mr. Rivera, and he's got good yardage, and he's got a first down, 1st and 10 for the Hanks Knights. He's down on the ground, Mr. Rivera.
It was a very awkward situation when he was tackled because he had, I was trying to pick up the number, Shannon Scove out in front of him, and he was kind of tackled, and Scove was intertwined in his legs or something. It was hard to pick up, but he went down in a real awkward way. I have the stats, by the way, through the first 3 quarters. Rushing yardage, Hanks 123. Eastwood has 78 passing yardage. Hanks is 1 out of 2 for 2 yards passing, wide open. 15 yards for Eastwood passing. Total yardage 93 for Eastwood and 125 yards for Hanks. Hanks had 2 yards total offense in the 3rd quarter. That's kind of tough going right there. First downs 8 for Hanks, 5 for Eastwood. Penetrations 1 for Hanks and 3 for Eastwood. Penalties 2 for 10 for Hanks and 1 for 5 Eastwood. Punting average 52 yards a kick for Hanks on 5 kicks and 5 for 183 yards total for the Eastwood Troopers. Plays 47-39. Eastwood has the edge there.
All right, the handoff goes to Chris Carter, the tailback. By the way, David Rivera left the field under his own power. David Gonzalez, who stands the same, almost the same, carbon copy, 5'11", 173-pound senior, wearing number 13, is in the ballgame at the helm for the Knights. And just as we say that, here comes David Rivera back in. So he was momentarily shaken up. The young trainer, Dave Cohn, getting him back into the ballgame in a hurry for the Hanks Knights. Ball is at the 37-yard line. Be 2nd and 8. Oh, the Hanks would like to get another 6 points on the board. Rivera, the rollout. Late pitch out to Dominguez. He cannot turn that corner. No way he's going to turn that corner. The guy putting up a little stop right down there was Steve Foster in defensively for the Eastwood Troopers. Refused to let him turn the corner. Ball will be back at the 40-yard line, original line of scrimmage. It'll be 3rd and 10 at the 40-yard line.
Rivera is the leading ball carrier for the Hanks Knights so far tonight. 14 carries, 63 yards. Carter has 14 carries for 51 yards so far.
All righty. 10:29. The clock is moving. A fairly decent turnout, especially by the Eastwood Trooper side tonight. Hanks side not as big. The handoff to Dominguez. He's going to get the first down. I'll tell you what, Eastwood Troopers waiting for the pass play, and Dominguez went between Pat Carney, Pat Neave, the right side of the line. They opened up a hole. You could put a howitzer through, or at least Chris Nance himself. And they're going to be inside the 25 down to about the 24-yard line. Whoa. Boy, that was a gaping hole on the right side of the line. Dominguez took advantage of it, and Hanks has a 1st and 10 at the 24-yard line of the Eastwood Troopers, and they're knocking on the door again.
They
and
sure
another
are.
Touchdown at this juncture, and you're going to see Eastwood Troopers open it up, I guarantee you.
They may. Nice play by David Rivera as he faked the pitch and then handed off up the middle to Dominguez, and it was just a very nice play for a first down.
Looked like a little motion in the backfield. No flags coming down. Rivera, the keeper, and he's close to the 20-yard line. Gene Claiborne, the flanker back, looked like he came back towards the quarterback, and there was no flag thrown, so play is good. It looked like a little Canadian football at the time. And the unknown statistician going, hey, if the flag didn't come down, there was no penalty.
Hey, there's no violation if there's no flag. Is that right?
Legally in motion, he says. All right.
There it is.
Ball at the 20. 2nd down and 6. You know, for years, fans, people say it's an illegal motion penalty. That was a legal motion penalty. 2nd and 6 right here at the Canadian National Football League playoffs. A little razzle-dazzle. Claiborne winds up, and he's trying to turn the corner. Can he? Flags it down all over the field this time. Might have been also a late hit right there at the end. The handoff went to Chris Carter, and the flanker back around got it on the reverse to Claiborne, and he got a little room, not very, very much, as he turned that corner. Flags came down. It'll be a clipping penalty coming up against the Hanks Knights. That's going to move him back.
I thought I spotted a clipping penalty on the far side of the field, and sure enough, my old eyes didn't deceive me. That's exactly what the call is going to be, and the play didn't go for very much of anything, and that's going to be even less.
Now, let me get this straight while we've got a moment while they're discussing this penalty. Now that we've given away the $10,000 down payment, the next gold card, lucky card number, claimant, gets a $1,000 shopping spree at Safeway.
Right.
You can take whatever you want. You can take $1,000 worth of coffee. I mean, there is no restriction.
$1,000 at Safeway.
God, if you won it, you'd come up with 1,000 bottles of wine or something good like that. What would you buy if you had $1,000, you know?
I don't know. Knowing my wife and the way things are at home, I'd probably buy $1,000 worth of cat food.
Me, you know, Lot Speech would probably buy $1,000 worth of his new book. Lots of luck with Jim Lot Speech.
That's right.
Ball be all the way back to 35.
Is that available in Safeway?
Think about that out
that's
there
on the paperback rack, isn't it?
Right.
Yes.
Think about that out there. If you won $1,000 shopping spree at Safeway, what would you buy? Because you got to remember, you know, you can't buy all the meat in the world. Where would you store it? Number one. But of course, food prices the way they are, that would only be about 3 shopping carts anyway. The old days it was about 50, but now it's only about 3 shopping carts. But at Safeway, your money goes a little longer anyway.
That's right.
Farther.
Much further.
All right, 2nd and 21 at the 35. Rivera, pass complete out to the flat. And it's going to be back to the line of scrimmage. Didn't pick up much on that play. The pass was complete to Chris Carter, and not much yardage picked up out there at all. Carter actually went down under his own power. The ball be put back down at the 35-yard line, so the pass is complete, but for no yards gained. It'll be 3rd and 21 at the 35-yard line. What is your typical 3 and 21 pass play coming up?
I don't know. So far, they've completed 2 out of 3 passes for a total of 2 yards, so I don't know what you do here.
All right, Claiborne in the slot to the left. The pass intended for Claiborne, and he's going to run hard to try and get under it. You know, that wasn't a badly conceived play. That pass just a little overthrown, but had Claiborne picked it up, he would have been close to that first down yard line marker and in full stride. Brings up a 4th and 21 at the 35, and if they have a fake punt play, this will be the time to use it, huh?
Well, it'll be interesting to see what they do. I think they probably will go ahead and kick it away with hopes of pinning Eastwood back, and Eastwood has 8 minutes and 27 seconds right now to get their hands on this football and try to put some points on the board. They're trailing right now.
David Rivera is going to punt. Eastwood Troopers are not sending anybody back deep. Rivera gets a high snap, and he fumbles it, and now he recovers it. He's going to be brought down at the 45-yard line. Eastwood Troopers did not send anyone back, and they rushed 9 people. The snap was extremely high, got away from Rivera. It wasn't his fault. It was just up there high, and he tried to pick it up. He did get it. He tried to run with it, was going to try that kick. We saw him have a quick kick earlier. We know he can kick on the run, but he just couldn't get it away, and he was inundated at the 45-yard line, their own 45-yard line, 1st and 10 for the Troopers. Brochu will be at the helm for the Eastwood Troopers. 8:21 remaining in our ball game, and the district champ Troopers with a 5-0 district slate facing their first loss of the year. Nobody wants to enter by-district play with a loss. So I'm sure Todd Ware and the Troopers are going to try and get a drive going underway right now. Brochu back to play, has plenty of time, good protection, wings it downfield. I don't know. I guess it was intended for number 6, Brad Watson, but that ball landed about 8 or 9 yards to his side.
Well, there was either a mix-up or the ball just slipped out of his hand, because it really was not anywhere near Brad Watson, who was the only Eastwood Trooper anywhere in the neighborhood of the ball. So it went haywire somewhere along the way.
It was a neighborhood pass, they call it.
That's correct.
All right. 2nd and 10, ball at the 45-yard line. 2nd and 10. Just had a chance to speak to Ken Schramm, Minnesota Twins pitcher, formerly Diablo, in town. Wow, his arm was hit when he went back to pass. John Brochu's arm was hit by Timbo Duncan. Timbo Duncan just knocked his arm. These Knights are playing quite a defensive ball game. 3rd and 10 at the 45. On the replay, you could see it, as Timbo Duncan just came in and knocked that arm of Brochu, and he couldn't get that pass away. He ran to the sidelines, picked up a play. He's out there now. They've got a third, and they've had third and long all night long staring at them.
They've had a bunch of them, and their passing has been somewhat less than spectacular. Brochu is 2 out of 11 for 15 yards, so it has not been a night for the aerial attacks here in the Sun Bowl.
Foster coming in motion. Oh, flags will come down. You can't. This is not the Canadian Football League, gentlemen.
That was illegal motion on that one.
Pass intended for Foster and broken up in the secondary by Sims and Lawyer. Well, that's got to be illegal motion, is exactly what the call is going to be, because they had 2 running backs in motion. Ball player is down on the field for the Knights, one of the defensive secondary ball players. I cannot see exactly who it is. He's up right now. I thought it might have been number 13, David Gonzalez. Is it? It sure is. David Gonzalez, who is a 123-pound junior who stands 5'11", 123 pounds.
123 pounds. I think he was suffering from cramps.
When he puts his helmet on, he gets a headache. Can't lift his head up. 123 pounds. Gosh, and they talk about football being a big man's game. A young fellow with a big heart like that playing football. K-Hay salute to a young guy like that, David Gonzalez. And he leaves the field on his own power. He's in good shape. Now, Prenslow going to get the punt away. He's got a good one. He'll come down the neighborhood of about the 22-yard line. And that's where he's going to be brought down, short of the 20-yard line. And that'll be back there, bringing in that punt, Danny Marola. 35 yards on that punt. I think he probably had about a 2-yard loss on a return. I don't know. Ball be down. Let's see where they put it down. About the 20-yard line. Inside the 20. Make it the 19. 1st and 10. 7:57 going, all ball game. 7-0. Hanks leading Eastwood. See who's going to quarterback the Hanks Knights as we start this drive. See if Rivera comes back in. I don't know, but if I was sitting or standing in Jim Pufall's shoes, I might want to run this on the ground. It was a penalty, and I don't see the penalty flags. Personal foul, okay, because I don't see it on the field at all. Personal foul, dead ball foul, personal foul against Eastwood Troopers. There is no flag. It's evidently already been picked up by the referee because no one has gone to pick up a flag. All righty. 1st and 10, ball at the 34-yard line. David Rivera, the quarterback. Little handoff, slant play. Ruben Dominguez. Not going to pick up much yardage, but as I said, they may be content to run some time off the clock.
I'm sure they would like to grind out some of this 7 minutes and 45 seconds. They have a 1st and 10 and a pretty decent field position to try to eat up some of the clock on their own 35-yard line. And as far as Eastwood is concerned, I'm sure they want to shut them down as quickly as possible, try to get the ball with as much time and as good a field position as they possibly can.
2nd and 10. The ball is actually at the 35-yard line. We'll call it 2nd and 10 at that juncture. Going in motion, Claiborne to the far side. Rivera rolling out to his right. Fakes the pitch out. He's inside up to about the 42-yard line. You know, the Miners tomorrow night against BYU. Next week, they'll be on the road. And, of course, you'll hear it on the Mighty 690 up in Albuquerque. University of New Mexico Lobos, who have not had the best of seasons. They were, I believe, 10-1 last year. Didn't go to the bowl. Went to the mysterious bowl against Tulsa, I think, something like that.
Computer bowl or something.
Right.
They play them off in a computer matchup.
Then the Miners will be at home against Weber State. Final ball game of the year, and that ball game will be on the 19th. So they got a chance, I think, to claim 2 of the last 3 ball games.
Believe so.
The handoff to Dominguez, the left side. He's going to be close to that 1st down. If he's got that 1st down, he's going to buy another 2 or 3 minutes for the Hanks team. Let's see where they mark it. And they've got the 1st down. A very, very unusual ball game, to say the least, because we'll be talking about it on the wrap-up show. And perhaps we can call John Teicher in real quick on a post-game show and get his thoughts about tomorrow night's Miner game against BYU. We'll have John with us on the post-game show for a quick thought.
I have not talked to anybody that has followed the Miners very much this year who think that tomorrow night's going to be that bad of a blowout. You know, a lot of people are saying, hey, BYU's coming in here. They're the 2nd most prolific team in the country as far as scoring. A lot of people don't think it's going to be that bad.
Claiborne in motion. We'll ask John on a post-game show. The handoff to Carter, I believe, got the handoff. And if he did, he's probably going to say, don't give it to me anymore, because, wow, I felt that one down off the bottom of that pile. One of the big fellas for the Eastwood Troopers. And that is, of course, as we look him up, Sergio Marmolejo. Ooh, Sergio put a hit on him. It stayed. That one hurt. Ball is at the 46, 47-yard line. Be 2nd and 9. We'll ask John about that at the end of the show. John is usually outspoken, and he'll tell you exactly what he thinks. Plus, BYU's got a heck of a team. I mean, no taking it away from them. Wow. They can score.
Certainly can put the points up on the board, and I think with the exception of Nebraska, I think Nebraska is the only team that has put more points per game on the board than BYU. And Steve Young, of course, can throw the ball and throw it and throw it and then throw it some more. I think the last time, wasn't he completing about 80% of his passes up until very recently? 80% of his passes, unbelievable.
Just short of the midfield stripe. It'll be 3rd and 7. We're going to be inside of 5 minutes as this play unfolds.
Well, we've got a mishandled ball out there intended for Chris Carter. The pitch out was, and it just got away from him. It's going to be a big loss on the play.
Well, it'll bring up a 4th down situation coming up for the Hanks Knights. They're going to punt this ball away, but they've been eating up a lot of clock, and as they do, they keep the ball out of the hands of the Eastwood Troopers, and Todd Ware probably trying to say to himself, well, if Todd Ware can get the Troopers to score, I do believe they'd go for 2 points.
I suspect they probably
Ball's
would.
at their own 40.
Got nothing really to lose, no matter what the circumstance is. They're going to go into the playoffs as the winner of District 2-5A, no matter what tonight offers. So,
all right, Rivera got another bad snap, but he digs it out, roots it out, and gets the punt down to about the 25-yard line, where it's mishandled by Steve Foster. And then he falls on his own fumble. Boy, the Eastwood Troopers have been nothing but flat all night long. That's all there is to it. They're flat.
Well, I don't think they've had it together, and I'm sure it was hard for them to get it together after they pulled a big win over Bel Air a week ago. At 28-8 was the final score there. A 34-yard punt, by the way, which was mishandled there by Steve Foster, but he fell on it.
Well, I'll tell you what, you say, it's tough to get up for a game, but this is for the bragging rights out in the east side of town. These schools so close to one another. Ball at the 23-yard line, 1st and 10. They've got Gary Rinker at the helm for the Eastwood Troopers. It's do or die time to keep their unblemished record intact in district play. The handoff to Foster, and that play isn't going to get it. They may pick up a yard, and that's at most up to about the 25-yard line.
They have 75 yards to try to cover in 4 minutes, and I don't think they're going to quite get it done if they do it 1 yard at a time.
No doubt about it, and that's exactly what they picked up on that handoff from Rinker to Foster.
22 rushes for 60 yards, by the way, for Steve Foster tonight. Less than 3 yards a carry. He came in 140 rushes, 833 yards, almost 6 yards carry.
Kept him at half his...
half and maybe a little bit less.
All right, Foster the handoff again. Across that 25. I guess maybe they're just content to run it out and play it this way. Ball at the 28-yard line. It'll be a 3rd and 6 for the Troopers. Coming back in now is John Brochu, the starting quarterback. Brochu has passed for 722 yards this season, 10 touchdowns, completing 42 of 107. It's about a 44% completion average. He's got Tony Prenslow split out wide to the right. Clock is running. We'll be inside of 3 minutes before this play gets underway. Brochu rolling out to his left. Got a receiver downfield. Whoa. Just overthrew him. Nowhere in the vicinity for Steve Francis. Overthrew Francis by about 15 yards.
It was considerably overthrown. You can see the water splash off the AstroTurf a little bit when the ball hits or when they step on it pretty hard. So maybe the ball is a little bit damp. The completion percentage hasn't really been what you'd like to see it tonight. 2 out of 12 for Brochu for 15 yards so far.
If Coronado continues to beat Andrus as they were, they'll be playing Eastwood next week, and Coronado beat Eastwood 27-7 earlier this season.
We saw earlier.
That's right.
Year.
Maybe they just don't want to show something. That could be exactly what they're trying to do. Here's a 4th down, fumble, and a fumble recovery by the Hanks Knights, and down on the bottom, it looked like a 72 that I saw down there. Joe Herrera, was that right? Thank you, Jim.
That's the
Joe Herrera. I don't believe it, but you got to call it the way you see it. Just a 4th down handoff to Carter, and it just never got Foster. The Foster just never got the handoff. And now you've got a Hanks recovery. The ball at the 25-yard line, 1st and 10 for Hanks with 2:50 remaining in the ballgame.
Eastwood has kind of dug a hole and started pulling the dirt in over their head right now. They turn the ball over on the 25-yard line. 2 minutes, 50 seconds left to play, and they're trailing. Hanks has the ball, 1st and 10.
Rivera, the keeper, trying to turn that corner. He just gets inside the 25, and then he's chased out of bounds once he gets inside the 25 by Joe Gaskins. Of course, that does stop the clock, which is in the favor of the Eastwood Troopers. Of course, the Knights would like to keep that clock rolling. I tell you, when we chat with John Teicher for a moment on a post-game show, I'm going to ask him, you know, John was out there scouting for 16 different teams out in Hawaii. That's why he had to leave a week early. That's right. It's called the Teicher News Service.
That's right.
About that on a post-game show. Ball at the 22-yard line. 2nd and 7. Phillips is still counting bills. He can't believe it. The handoff once again to Ruben Dominguez. He's going to be thrown down at the line of scrimmage. Bring up a 3rd and 7 at the 22-yard line. Tomorrow night, Miners and BYU. You'll hear it on the Mighty 690. 2:33 remaining in a ball game. We'll take this timeout. Our score: Hanks 7, Eastwood 0.
At the State National and our affiliated banks, we believe the more you put into your home, the more you'll get out of it. That's why a home improvement loan from the State National Bank makes sense. Your personal banker is an expert in home improvement lending. It's one way the State National puts more money back into our community than any other bank in town. If you have a home improvement idea, see your personal banker at any State National bank and put our momentum to work around your house. The State National, an equal opportunity lender.
Okay, Paul, these are all third quarter scores. It's Coronado 24, Andress 6. Burgess and Austin are tied at 14 apiece. Bowie 13, El Paso 7, the same for Irvin and Jefferson 13-7. Socorro 21 and Parkland 14. Paul, back up to you.
Thank you, Mary. I hope that was Irvin leading Jefferson 13-7. We think it is. Okay. So
Socorro leading Parkland. They may be on their
Socorro
way.
on the way 2nd District win?
2nd District?
Yes, honey.
Yeah, it was. Irvin 13, Jefferson 7.
All right, we're happy to have you back on the Mighty 690.
Thank you.
Mary Chavez. We loved a lot of cards and letters. Of course, those cards and letters went to Mike Hendricks, who's so handsome, but Mary got 1 or 2 along the way, too. Okay, we've got 2:33 remaining in our ball game. Our score, Hanks Knights 7 and the Eastwood Troopers 0. That ball will be placed down at the 21-yard line by 3 and 7 for the Hanks Knights. And it's got to be a discouraging Trooper team out there right now. They are really hanging their heads. The handoff goes to Ruben Dominguez. They're right there in the middle of the field. Do you think, as Rivera's looking for that sideline, he's looking over, do you think he's going to go for a field goal attempt?
Well,
there's an injury on the field.
Field goal probably would not be a bad idea, because at worst...
And a timeout. Well, let's go ahead and take the timeout. Give our sponsors a chance to tell us what's happening. 2:23 remaining to go in our ball game. Hanks Knights 7, Eastwood Troopers 0.
At the State National and our affiliated banks, we believe the more you put into your home, the more you'll get out of it. That's why a home improvement loan from the State National Bank makes sense. Your personal banker is an expert in home improvement lending. It's one way the State National puts more money back into our community than any other bank in town. If you have a home improvement idea, see your personal banker at any State National bank and put our momentum to work around your house. The State National, an equal opportunity lender.
All right, back here at the Sun Bowl, 2:23 to go. Our final regularly scheduled high school game of the season. Of course, boy, where'd this season go? You know, I'll tell you something, Mike. What beautiful weather we have had. You know, in the past, we've done ball games in the Mighty 690. We've had snow after ball games, rain, sleet, everything. We started out on the safari with our opening game at Andress, but it has been beautiful weather all year long. Who is that down, by the way?
Joe Gaskins is the player that is down on the field, and he's getting up a little bit slowly, but I think he's going to come off under his own steam, so he's all right. But Joe Gaskins
is the left side linebacker, 170-pound senior defensively, and he usually plays left guard offensively, 2nd string, Joe Gaskins, and he's come over to the sideline under his own power, and that's a good sign. All right, it'll be 4th and 4. Ball is at the 19-yard line. A field goal attempt evidently coming up by the Hanks Knights. Number 50, is that 53 in there?
Pat Neeb.
Pat Neeb, because they don't have the strongest field goal kicker. Holding the ball will be David Gonzalez, the 2nd string quarterback, so you could have any yard line. A field Is there 53 in there?
Pat Neeb.
Pat Neeb. Strongest field goal kicker. Holding the ball will be David. Fake. The ball will be at the 26, be a 36-yard. Larry to pass, little. Tell you what, Gonzalez came out of the hole. Downfield pass. Coming out of the backfield, just incomplete, in and out of his hand. That was a pretty nice play. We called it, but it was a nice play.
I'll tell you, and Loya was open out there. The ball just took a little bit too long to get to him. If he'd have had a little bit more zip on it, I believe it would have been completed pass all the way down to about the 10, inside the 10-yard line. But instead of that, we turn it over. We get a little excitement. 2:17 left in the game, just short of the 20-yard line. Eastwood takes over, and they've not shown a lot of offense. Maybe they'll get something rolling here.
Well, John Brochu's got him going. 2:17 to go in the ball game. Going in motion is Steve Foster. Brochu back to pass. He's got some pressure coming in on him. The ball is just going to be... Tell you why, the ball was tipped. The ball was tipped by Steve Faludi, and that's why it falls incomplete. It was intended for Mark Galvan out of the backfield. Galvan down on his knees. He's going to come out of the ball game right now. Right now, Eastwood's getting some hard hitting put on by them. Tremendous pressure was put on by Fred Loya coming in on that play, and that ball was tipped by Steve Faludi, and that's why the pass never got there. It'll be 2nd and 10 at their own 19-yard line. Here we got Rinker. Remember, we played one of these games earlier in the year against Coronado for the Eastwood Troopers. Going in motion, Foster to the near side. Rinker rolling out the pass. He's got some pressure, and wow, that ball is caught. There's a flag coming down. Might be a legal receiver. It might be a late hit. It could be anything. Pass was caught by one of the linemen, David Brady. Let's see what they're going to call on this. The Hanks Knights just put a wall of pressure against the Eastwood Troopers. That whole front line. Faludi, Neeb, Alvinus just all coming in on him. I didn't even see the call on it. I didn't watch the call on it. Let's see what it's going to be. It might be a personal foul. Picking up the flag is Tom Rogers, and we'll see where they're going to wave the flag off. And what they had called was illegal receiver downfield, but it was... All righty. Ball be at the 28-yard line.
I think we have the official ruling on this. We had what the flag was an illegal touching of the ball, but they ruled, or the catching of the ball by David Brady.
Yeah, but they ruled that the ball was tipped.
Exactly.
Yeah, and he can catch it. That's right. All right, 3rd and 1 at the 27-yard line. Going in motion, Riddick. Dropping back to pass, Brochu. Pass complete. Out the flats is Tony Prenslow. He's across the midfield stripe down about the 47-yard line. That may be the longest pass play of the night.
Definitely the longest pass play of the night. Prior to that, Brochu had completed 2 of 14 for 15 yards, so that's definitely the biggest play of the night.
All right, the 1st and 10 at Hanks 49-yard line for the Troopers. Rinker comes in on this play. So this may be one of the few teams in the United States that sends the plays in with the quarterback. 1st and 10. Rinker rolling back the pass. Got good protection this time. He airs it out. He's got to receive it downfield. And one of them is wearing a white uniform. It's going to be intercepted by the Hanks Knights. Fred Loya. That's right. That's right. We told you one of them was wearing a white uniform. The one in blue for Eastwood was Watson, Brad Watson. But that ball was intercepted by Fred Loya. Rinker throws the interception. 1st and 10 with 1:22 to go with the Hanks Knights.
Well, it very well could be turn out the lights. The party's over as far as the Eastwood Troopers are concerned, because they only have 1 timeout left. 1st and 10 for the Hanks Knights. 1:22 left to go. I don't believe they're going to do a whole lot fancy here.
Well, they could run 3 plays. They could run 4 plays on the ground and burn out the clock. And that's what they might do. They could just fall on it if they wanted to.
Eastwood can only stop it once.
One time, Rivera, a little sneak to the right side between Bobby Lujan and Pat Neeb. Clock is still rolling. They haven't called any timeouts. Eastwood has only got 1 timeout remaining. They're not going to spend it right now. Ball at the 19-yard line. It'll be a 2nd and 7. Ball marked ready for play. There's a lone balloon drifting over the Sun Bowl. Someone gets it, open it up, little message in it. Help! I'm a prisoner in a press box. All right, 2nd and 7. Ball at the 18-yard line. Rivera will wedge it out a little to his left side, and it'll keep that clock rolling. Now the Eastwood Troopers will call the timeout. We'll take that timeout. 39 seconds remaining in the Sun Bowl. Our score, Hanks Knights 7, Eastwood Troopers 0.
We're not fancy, not expensive. We don't put on airs. We just put out the best home-style cooking in El Paso. We're the Iron Skillet, a Texas restaurant tradition that started right here in El Paso. The Iron Skillet promises just one thing: good food 24 hours a day, every day in a congenial atmosphere. We're open at I-10 and Horizon night and day with everything from country breakfast to real chicken fried steak and cream gravy to all-you-can-eat specials and great sandwiches. The Iron Skillet, a Texas tradition at I-10 and Horizon under the Petro sign.
Hey, Paul, a listener just called and asked me a question. I don't know the answer. I'm sure you do. He wanted to know, if Eastwood loses, does Bel Air come up as co-district champion because they both would have lost one game?
Okay, the answer to that, of course, is yes. The Bel Air Highlanders have finished 5-1. If Eastwood loses, they would be 5-1. They would be co-district champions, but Eastwood would get the top slot and actually get the advantage of playing the runner-up in 1-5A on the strength of the fact that they, in head-to-head competition, would have beaten Bel Air, which they already did. I don't know if that's a victory, because that team may have to face the Coronado Thunderbirds, who have already beaten the Eastwood Troopers 27-7. But that's exactly right. The listener is right. They would be co-champions, but Eastwood be considered the top dog in 1-5A. The rollout by Rivera, and he's just going to roll out that clock. The clock is moving with 31 seconds. And I don't know if a penalty flag came down. It might have been two flags came down. It might have been a late hit or a little personal foul called against the Eastwood Trooper bench, as a little tempers are flying, getting a little strained. Personal foul against Eastwood Trooper. This is a district championship team. We don't need to have that. I'm sure Todd Ware will be instructing his team. We don't need that. No way to do it. Both teams will finish. Bel Air and Eastwood will finish at 5-1. But on the strength of the fact that the Eastwood Troopers defeated Bel Air to the tune of 28-8, they will be considered the top dog in 2-5A, and therefore will host the 1-5A runner-up next Thursday night in the Sun Bowl. Of course, we'll tell it to you all in the post-game show. We'll also have a chance to talk with John Tyson, a post-game show about the minor battle tomorrow night, and little highlights coming up for next week, because by then we'll have all 4 teams ready to tell you what nights, and of course you'll hear it all on the mighty 690 KHAY in El Paso, Texas. Mike and I will be ready with Jim Lotspeech, an engineer extraordinaire, and the mystery stat man. We're going to unveil him. Final game of the year.
It's not Nate Archibald under that bag?
No.
Oh.
It's not. And we had some callers called in as they're running out the clock now. Rivera takes the snap, falls down on it, and this will be it. You can hear the fans in the background. What a tremendous upset victory by the Hanks Knights. They have found their niche in the last couple of weeks. That is a dejected Eastwood Trooper team being unveiled right now. Hanks Knights upsetting the district winners, getting the first district loss on the Eastwood Troopers, the tune of 7-0. Some people might say, well, Eastwood didn't want to show too much. No team wants to enter by district play with a loss. I love it. A couple of years ago when I read about it and heard about it, the late Vince Lombardi said, I don't care. They can give me as many preseason games as they want to give me. I'm going to win them all.
That's right.
Because it's an attitude. Tom Landry, the same way. It's a winning attitude that has to be developed. It's very, very important. All right. Our final score is 7-0. Hanks beating Eastwood. And then, of course, we're going to come back with the post-game show and give you all the highlights, the lowlights, and the upcoming lights. Final score from Sun Bowl Stadium. The Hanks Knights 7, the Eastwood Troopers 0.
Now,